Hey Jeffrey, good evening.
Hey Frank, how's it
How you
going?
been? Good, good. How have you been? It's been a little while.
Yeah, yeah, we just been, dealing with all the hurricane stuff for like a month plus, plus.
Yeah. Hopefully nothing devastating.
Not for us,
Good.
maybe for other people.
Yeah, it was pretty messy all over.
Yeah,
Last time you were on, you were getting bids and stuff for electrical on one of your buildings. Did that ever happen?
we got up. We're at our second bid, um, and I'm working on getting a third. Once I get that third, I think I'm gonna make a decision. So we're getting closer. What was great about the second bid was we got a couple, mom and pop electricians, and one of them you can tell he wasn't super intellectual. He's just like a kind of a hardworking, salty of the earth, grunt kind of guy. Wasn't super articulate, wasn't a, big talker. And we our first bid was like not to exceed like $27,000 or something like that. And this guy said I should be able to do it for, not to exceed like seven or eight.
I don't.
So we're like, you know, he could probably make some mistakes and we'd still be better off, So I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, that's a positive.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite a difference.
A huge.
We've kind of been having the same type of variance on estimates that we're getting for because we closed on a couple of properties over the last couple of months and getting estimates from the property manager first
Okay.
and their crews and their numbers. Some of them have been double. For example, on a mini split system that we need to have put in one of the homes because that was we bought it as a two bedroom, one bath, and there was already an addition of a bedroom.
Okay.
Now the tenant moved out, so we're looking at making that a 3-1, and we need heating and cooling in that other bedroom because it was not originally part of the plan.
Yep.
And the so we're looking at mini splits, and the property manager bid came in at 7K,
Okay.
which I thought was kind of common. But then our agent, the real estate agent that helps us in that market, sent me one of her vendors, and his was half at 3,500.
Wow.
Yeah, for a similar product. The only thing that they're not
That's just for
doing,
one room, right? Not for the
just
whole
yeah,
place.
no, just for
Okay.
one, yeah, one
Well, that
room.
makes sense. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so that was a nice difference.
Oh,
We've had again, the property manager sent someone in to check out the furnace in a different unit, and all their guys' recommendations were to replace the unit. And again, our agent sent us one of her guys, and he was able to repair the unit. So they were going to replace it for 4,200, and he repaired it for 1,000. So
wow.
quite a difference. And we'll get a few years out of it so we can build some reserves and then replace it. Eventually we'll replace it. But yeah, I was surprised at some of the differences there.
Those are huge differences.
Yeah.
I mean, I was surprised at the one I just mentioned too. I mean, it's like it really does seem to be a major factor whether you have a big, like county-wide business that has overhead and infrastructure and fixed costs and all that,
Hmm.
versus, a mom and pop that just doesn't have those expenses and needs the business more and maybe doesn't do a lot of marketing, so they don't cover all those costs as much. They pass the savings on to us.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting thought. One of our friends, he might pop in tonight. He's been on with us before from my area, but he is doing a flip basically. He's a real estate agent, and he was getting a plumbing bid to basically replumb the whole house. And again, the first bid was, I think he said 46,000, and he ended up with a guy that said 9,000. And like you said, it's just another little guy that doesn't have a lot of overhead and things, but it's amazing. And two, I mean, Dion has mentioned before that, if the contractor maybe doesn't want the job or is too busy, they'll throw a high number out there and see if you'll take it just to make it worth their time of
Right.
pulling guys off another job or something. So
Yep.
that, yeah, good. So hopefully you'll land somewhere close to the lower guy.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, the difference is so big that it seems to me it's worth a little bit more uncertainty, and potentially it's worth like dealing with some imperfections in his work that like if I would have gone with the high bid and spent 22,000, but then I go with this guy, I spent eight, and then there's problems because he didn't do a perfect job, and then I got to go spend 1,000 for an inspection and then another 2,000 for repairs and everything. It might feel stupid or feel bad, but I still saved like almost $10,000,
Yeah.
right? With that. So it's like, well, if I just have to do that, it's like, okay, it's more trouble, but it's still a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And
All
is
right.
if you don't mind me asking, is the lower price guy licensed and insured as
Yeah.
well? Uh-huh.
Yeah, as far as I know, he's a fully licensed, legit electrician. I'll triple check that now that we're looking at such a great variance, obviously,
Mhm.
because that brings those kind of questions up more deeply. But there was nothing like he came recommended. Um, the only mom and pops I talked to were actually recommended by people that had been using them in the area.
Oh,
So and then I believe all of them had nothing but really good reviews, like Google reviews and that kind of thing. So we vetted them before we got them to that point. But I think I'm going to circle back and triple up that due diligence to make really certain about that prior to seriously considering that option. But
uh-huh.
because the way I look at it, it's like he could have all that going for him, but still might cut a corner here and there that he shouldn't have, but it's like passable. And then fine, we can fix that up after he's done, and we've saved like $15,000. I was like, okay, like we probably afford that with the big guys if we have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of like you mentioned earlier, as far as our business too, I don't I don't always add a fee on top of materials or things like that unless sometimes we'll have to drive, an hour plus to get a certain product.
Sure.
Then I can see it, but maybe that's not so smart business wise for me, but I just don't feel good about it. If something's going to take us a long time, a lot of times we'll have materials delivered. So I'm not
Okay.
spending time going to the lumberyard to pick things up or stuff like
Right.
that. So there are different situations, but for the most part, yeah, we don't really add too much to materials.
Yeah, because it's really about your time. Whereas with a business, it's not just about time. It's about capex and opex and all those fixed costs, and it's like that's a different psychology for different purposes. As long as you're paid for the time that you spend, you gave up the time, you got paid. It's like that
Mhm.
for that management approach, it's probably good enough. A lot of people work a lot and don't get paid at all. So.
Yeah, there are those those occasions too, where
Sure.
sometimes we'll spend a lot of time on something, but we can't always bill a customer for that. Just depending on the situation. I
Right.
can't think of one off the top of my head, but we've had that where we go in and bid something, and something on my end makes it take longer than maybe it should have. So I'm not gonna bill the customer for my
Right.
or whatever that might have been.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. And it's been working for us all this time. Like, I've said before, this is our 34th year, so
Wow.
must be doing something right.
Well, when you have any integrity and you're delivering the result, it's like, you're gonna get you're gonna keep building a book of business from that is gonna be loyal and is pretty much guaranteed. So if nothing else, at least you have the stability that comes with that on top of what you're paid. So yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, we've been lucky. We've maybe in our early years there was a couple of months where we were looking for work, but ever since then we're
Yeah,
we're pretty far out, booked pretty far out. So
that
that's a nice thing.
that's awesome.
Yeah, glad to see everybody jumping on. Hi Cassidy, you have a question?
I was just gonna say that one thing I started doing to cut down on the when I'm having to like fix something and I have to run to Home Depot and you know how long that can take if you're
Mhm.
running around Home Depot is that you can actually just tell them to bring the stuff out to you. You call them ahead of time, you just show up, they drop it off in your truck and you leave.
Hmm.
Since I
It-
started doing that, I've been cutting hours off of my days just from getting lost and wandering around and
Right.
who brings it out to you, Cassidy?
um the Home Depot guys.
Oh, they will.
Yeah.
So you make an order and you tell them I'm gonna pick up at this time, and then you just show up.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah.
mean show up at the store? I see.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Still gotta go
I'm
to the store, but you don't have to run around Home Depot shopping for stuff. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good tip. Um, I'm usually there waiting for them to open at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm in and out by 6:30 and on my way to work. So I and sometimes, well, crazy story, but we have two local Home Depots and the newer one they built, um, I forget what I ordered. It must have been flooring or something, and they put it outside to save it until the day I was coming to get it. But at that Home Depot, I'm there at 6 o'clock, ready to pick it up, and there's a noise ordinance, so they can't open the back doors to the store until 7 o'clock.
Oh
So
no.
I had to wait an hour for them to be
Oh,
able
that's
to open up the doors. Yeah, they had. They told me if it was true or not, I'm not sure, but they said there was one neighbor in the back that was just a pest and insisted and got them to agree that they wouldn't open the doors until 7.
damn.
I've actually got some pretty good local hardware stores. So I rarely have to go to Home Depot, but when I do, man, I don't want to have to come back.
Yeah, no, I know. Especially, like I said, after 7 o'clock, it gets nuts with all the other guys pulling in and everything. Uh, and
I
I mean,
once I once worked on a job and it blew me away. We'd show up for the site, be like 7:30, and then the foreman he would go and he'd get some measurements and he'd say, "All right, let's go get materials for the day."
oh no,
I'm like, are you kidding me? And that was every day.
that's
I
good.
mean,
That's a lot of time.
it was. I moved off of that one pretty quick. It was really annoying.
Hmm. Yeah, some of the guys here, I thought it was a little funny at first, but I have other friends who are contractors in our area, and they'll knock off a little bit early, like 3 o'clock, and they'll go and get their materials for the next day. I think that could still be a little bit busy, but that was how they did it. So when they had the stuff they needed the next morning and could roll, I think that's pretty valuable when you have everything you need first thing in the morning and can get to it.
Well, when I was doing bigger jobs, we have um, kind of a contractor only wood company up here called Casey Wood,
Hmm.
and they'll just deliver right to you. So they'll just deliver right to your job site. They do, hardware and screws and fasteners and not to mention all the wood and doors and windows and everything. They'll just take it right to the job, so you don't even got to be in town.
That's really nice. Yeah, we're working at our place right now. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the videos, but we have this garage that was pretty dilapidated with some dry rot and stuff, and we weren't sure if we should just tear it down or if we should try to save it. And we decided to try to save it. And I think it was a good decision because so far I think we're into it about somewhere around $8,000. So our place was built in 46, and I'm sure the garage was built around the same time. But if you know anything about the framing and everything, over the years, the building just kind of tilted over about 3/4 of an inch. So my cousin and I, he works with me all the time, and we reframed it, basically the interior, we reframed everything level and plumb and framed a new ceiling. And it was just going to be a craft room for Cynthia, my wife, and the plans have changed. Now there's a full bathroom in there. And so we're going to be, I don't know if you, Cassidy, have ever used one of the, it's a sewer, it's like a big pot with a macerating pump inside there for sewage, but it's for when you're adding a bathroom in a place that's not convenient to connect to your existing sewer pipes.
Ejector cam.
Yeah, the ejector pump. Yeah. Thanks, Josh. So we're going to use one of those for the first time, and it will actually, from what I understand, pump whatever's in the tank up 65 feet in height. So we don't have to go anywhere near that, but people use them for basements and stuff because then you're pumping up 8 feet to get to the regular sewer line and then getting into that so it can go to the sewer or a septic system. So this project's grown on us, but it's coming out really nice. We just had the roof done the other day. That was $3,500 for the guys to strip it, sheet it, and install new roofing. But what got me started on that was I was actually having, sheetrock and stuff delivered here to my house, and that's really convenient. Over the years, I just always went and got my own materials, and I don't know what I was thinking. It's a real time saver.
Only time I don't like to have it delivered is when it's like studs or material where I want to pick it out, because otherwise you end up with just a unit of stuff and half of it's twisted and hardly usable. But if it's something that you can get away with having them deliver, then that works out great.
Well, if you
Yeah.
got a smaller company that's doing the delivery, man, does it pay to tip the forklift drivers? So they'll actually get you good stuff then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Josh, to that point, if I were ordering from Home Depot, I wouldn't order lumber.
Yeah. I think that's the key. Is Home Depot is just known for being picked over and kind of get the rough stuff. It's twisted like a pretzel.
Yeah,
But
but
if you have a trusted lumber yard and it's a nice tight unit that's not been opened up and rustled through so much, then you can work around it usually. But
yeah, but the other thing too is we've talked before about the people pulling the material, right? They're young kids and all they look for is the number, right? Okay, this guy wants 100 2x4s. So these are all 2x4s. So let's throw them in the cart. And
Exactly.
they don't look at them. They don't look at them.
Yeah, and we just got to set them aside and return them if they're no good.
Yeah, like I have found that Lowe's, I think Lowe's has better lumber than Home Depot, but we don't have a Lowe's near us. That's I don't know if we've mentioned it on here before, but back when Home Depot first opened up, they used to have the Homers, and they were, retired guys from the trades, plumbers, electricians, and whatever. So at least you could go in the aisle and get some solid advice. But the kids now, have to Google what you're looking for so that they understand what it is.
Same thing with what we really like, ultra tall.
I usually have to show them where the products are that I'm looking for.
Exactly. Somebody else was speaking. It was hard to get.
Okay, I think they're muted now. But yeah, some people were, and I was too. I started listening to Matt's live stream today till it was time for us to get started. But some people are still over there listening. That's cool. He's got a lot of great information. And I was going to say, looks like since we're far enough along into our evening, if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and speak up. I don't know. Typically we go 3 hours or so. I don't know if we'll go that long tonight, so we don't want to miss your questions, so don't be shy. I was also going to mention that we've talked back and forth over the weeks about, well, our channel, my channel, we started, originally to try to help folks newer in the game, just getting started by sharing our lessons and mistakes and things like that. And it's kind of evolving. So like I said earlier, we're sharing some of the videos on some of the remodeling projects that we do. Hopefully those are helpful. But if you guys ever watch them, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I'm not sure what you're waiting for, but we'd love to see it, and we'd love some questions or comments. And so it's been a lot of fun, like Zuber was saying, just to, get started and have fun with it. We're not looking to monetize it or make a living off it, obviously, but we would appreciate anybody who's not subscribed to check it out. If it brings value, let us know. And also along the same lines, Mark, if you're listening, thank you for this morning mentioning the t-shirts that it's like a promotional thing that we're doing for Zuber, selling t-shirts. There's a video on my Facebook page. There's also one in the school community showing the t-shirts, and we're selling them. They're $30 each, and that includes the shirt, shipping and handling, and a $10 donation that we're hoping once we sell 100 t-shirts that we'll be able to gift a $1,000 donation to Zuber to give to the Blind Center. So I know quite a few of you have already ordered t-shirts, and I sent the last one out Monday that was ordered. So if you guys want to check that out, that'd be great. Cassidy, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just had a anecdotal thing I wanted to share.
Yeah.
So in 2021, I bought my first intentional rental. And that was kind of when I started, or rather stumbled across the one rental at a time sphere and the three great amigos and on all that stuff, and started really trying. And excuse me, I got my first house, and the story of how I got it was a little interesting, but I mean, I spent more than I wanted to on it, but it still made a little bit of sense. And the rate I got was pretty low. It was like 3.2% at the time. And I was only making a several $100s a month off of it. It was a duplex. And this month I'm now making almost $1,000 a month off of it. And to me, and all it really took was, using the binder strategy to get rents up a little bit, and one person moving out to get rents up to kind of market normal. And all of a sudden, that time in the market thing just really hit me this week, because I was that realization of, wow, this turned from something that just kind of was working to now this is making me a lot of money.
That's super that you mentioned that, because, a lot of us are spending some money right now on our properties. And again, through Cynthia and I showing what we're doing on the channel, lately we've been discussing with other investor friends in the group that sometimes, like if we buy a property, say we recently bought a single family in St. Louis, we were expecting a 10% return, which we always have, a 10% cash on cash return, and a couple $100 at least of positive cash flow. But I think Mikey and I were talking the other day about how something usually comes up, you have a little bit more expense, or something that you didn't catch the first time needs to be fixed. So that first year, your cash on cash return is going to be decreased by a bit. But I think, like you said, it's evident if you keep on going, things are going to turn around, and you can see that the good things that everybody talks about happening. Like you said, time is the biggest thing. We all want to get through the first 5 years of suck as fast as we can. So I'm glad to see that you've realized that you've realized the benefits and that the concepts are being proven. A lot of us are still waiting for that, but we know it will happen. So we're sticking to it.
How long have you had your place now?
A little over 2 years.
Nice. Yeah.
And did you say you found ORAT in 2019?
I think I found it in 2020, probably 2020.
Okay. Yeah, not too long after we did. So yeah, and I keep forgetting really how short a time we've been in the game again. Like I said before, the first time around for us in 07, 08 was a big disaster. And I think we're really lucky to have the opportunity to try it again with the proper education and all of you great people in these groups. So things are already looking tons better than they did the first time.
And like discovering the group and implementing the strategies that's let me buy. I have a total of 3 properties now. And this last one we bought, this isn't something I could have ever done. The calculation was much more of this is where I'm going to live. So it's okay if it costs a little bit more and if the numbers aren't exactly right, because this is going to be a long-term house. But that's not even something I could do if I didn't have 2 rentals that were going to pay their way and make even more money for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, even though it was, I'm not making any money off of where I'm currently living. I mean, I'm only paying like $800 a month to live here in this 3,000 square foot house. It's like you can't really, yeah. I don't know. It kind of blows me away.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
You're house hacking or?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I'm actually, I have roommates and I also have renters.
Okay, it's a multifamily, a duplex or something, or?
Yeah, it's a single family. So this is a common type of a setup in my area, is that you'll have a house that was big that was sort of divided, but it was never officially made into a duplex, so it only has one, electrical panel.
Right.
And so yeah, it has 2 units, but it's still a single family home and is kind of treated as such.
We have quite a few of those in our area too, where they're older homes that were just great big monstrosities that got kind of butchered up into homemade duplex kind of thing. But yeah, they work out great.
Yeah, no, it's been working out great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. If you haven't heard, Josh Cassidy's in California, also up north from us. I was going to answer Esther's question. Esther, the garage that I'm showing the videos about is our garage, is a detached single car garage at our house. Yeah.
Hey Frank, are you gonna modify the garage for living for the ADU?
That the original plan was just to rebuild it and make it safe. Cynthia wanted a craft room, and then it kind of morphed into a craft room with a nice bathroom. So the garage is going to be pretty comfortable. And the thought of, I haven't told Cynthia yet, but actually renting it out as a short-term rental or something like that has crossed my mind. I think it could bring in some pretty good cash, but but no, it's just for her. And I'll keep doing the videos until it's done. We started hanging sheetrock. Tomorrow we'll be finished hanging sheetrock. I put a video out a little while ago about the Delta corner shower unit that we're going to be using. So we installed the shower and the walls, the pan and the walls today. And then tomorrow we'll get to finish sheetrocking around that. And
Is it one story?
yes, it's just a little single story garage.
Okay.
And yeah, it was kind of weird because it didn't really have, it had a concrete floor, but the concrete was poured over a wood floor. So we chipped out all the concrete, got down to the wood. We replaced the subfloor. And we reframed everything. Like I said, we insulated everything. I put new electrical in there and new plumbing for the bathroom. And it's going to be pretty cozy. We were joking the other day that during the wintertime, our house is all electric heat, stove, water heater. So it might be cheaper for us to live in the garage. And
So is it gonna be a studio? A studio unit?
basically like a studio, yes.
Studio. Okay.
Yeah. So it's coming out pretty nice.
That's good.
So I guess Mark is listening. He has some age jokes for me. It was 2007, Mark, and 2008, not 1907. I don't think they did investing in 1907. Does anybody else have any questions or? Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Questions or anything you're going through right now that we can?
I have an update. So I don't know. I think last time I talked to you guys, you were giving me some advice on a tub leak I was having.
Mm-hmm.
I found the source of the leak. The tub is cracked.
Oh no,
Mm.
that's
So-
like the worst, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of the worst. And I can't just replace the tub because it actually is bumped out a little bit by a little, what do you call it? A little soffit behind the tub, and that's where, because it's a jacuzzi tub,
Mm-hmm.
that's where all the parts are and the motor and everything, all the little guts of it. And so that kind of bumps it out. So ripping that out and putting in a normal tub is going to have to like this 1 foot set back in towards the end of the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom. So then I got to move the plumbing over so it lines up, and I'm going to have to kind of re-floor so the flooring matches up as well. And I was considering doing more and then kind of converting it into a shower, but I think I'm gonna leave that for another date because I've already got people who are living there, and I don't want this to be a long and dragged out thing for them.
So that extra foot, that's kind of cantilevered out from the exterior of the lower floor.
Think of it as it pushes the tub forward. It's out in the back behind it, like it'd be like a little sitting area behind the tub.
Mm-hmm. So what do you know the dimensions of the tub? Is it like a regular 60
Just a regular old tub. Yep.
60 by 36 or something?
Yeah.
Because you could probably get a 60 by 36 soaking tub that would have the same footprint, but no jets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm after. That little soffit is gonna be disruptive.
Mm-hmm. So you'd have the same kind of bench look either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad though.
No, of all things, it's not the worst thing, but
Mhm.
it's still. I went through all the plumbers in the area, and boy, they quickly sorted themselves. You know, one guy had like no idea what he was even doing or how he was going to look at it or doing like that. He just seemed confused the whole time. Another one wanted to charge me $100 just to show up. And then the last guys, they were super professional, and I'd worked with them before, and yeah, they're gonna do everything, replace everything. All I have to do is fix the drywall for $3,000.
Oh, okay. That doesn't sound bad.
Not the worst, especially up here.
Yeah, I've kind of struggled with that, charging for visits and things, or even for estimates over the years, just because, I don't know, to say right up front that you charge for estimates is going to have a lot of people bypass you. But a lot of people don't realize, what it takes for us to break away and go look at their job. They think we're just sitting around waiting for work. And then, I mean, some guys say, it'll be 100 or 250 or whatever it is for me to come look at it. And if you hire me, then we'll take it off the bill. But I don't know how many of them actually do that.
Well, I was willing to pay for him to come out because I appreciate people's time. But then when I learned that the amount that they would actually commit to do, like they couldn't, they were literally only going to be able to actually just fix it and not do any like the replacement or any of the remodel or anything like that.
Oh,
I was like, you guys are just not going to be the ones.
yeah. I think one of our other friends was going through the similar thing with a jacuzzi tub and wasn't sure who to call. And like you said, I mean, you call a plumber, so the plumber's not going to do any electrical to disconnect the motor. So then you got to call an electrician to disconnect the motor before the plumber can do his thing. And then the plumber isn't going to do any drywall repair. So by the time you're ready to go, you're the general contractor pulling in all these subs.
Pretty much. But these guys, they're going to do the demo. They're going to haul away all the garbage. They're going to take out that old tub and take it away with them, and put in the new one and sort everything out. I'm like, shoot, guys, you're going to save me a hassle.
Yeah, that's great. That's kind of how I started out too, as just kind of like a handyman back in 1990. And I don't work. I'll call my electrician in for a panel swap or something like that, or call a plumber in if we need to replumb a whole house or something. But we do all our own work. So I think, well, half and half. I think a lot of people appreciate that they don't have a lot of different guys coming in and out of the house making a mess. And the other half don't realize how valuable we are because we do all that stuff, just like you said. So that's been a mixed bag over the years.
Yeah, I've got a situation that is pretty new to me, and I have a potential solution, but I wanted to run it by you guys. It's kind of we're kind of sitting in the tub still on this one, so I figured it was a good segue. Can I pose it?
Of course, yeah.
So we we got a tenant in about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit more than that. And I really don't remember how this happened, but we are where we are. Their tub has, a tiled wall on the side, above the tub, and a one of those ceramic like soap dish installations. Well, the ceramic soap dish installation is not connected. It either fell off or we just were negligent somehow, something. So basically behind it was just bare drywall, right? And they've been thoroughly using that tub. I mean, it's a full family, so I mean, they probably use it, a couple times a day, showers and whatever. So our handyman said, look, that drywall behind there, like I didn't want to reinstall it. That drywall is wet, right? And so we're thinking two options. Option one, knock the wall down, redo the drywall, retile, blah blah blah. $2,000 to $4,000 later, everything's fine. And the other option that we were thinking of, as cheap landlords that we are, is um, don't take any more showers for like 2 weeks. See if it'll dry out, and and then just hope that the drywall has some semblance of structural integrity to the point of not being a major renovation trigger for us.
Do they have multiple bathrooms?
No, but it's in a fourplex where other members of their family live in another one of the units, and they're family members of ours, so we can make a gentleman's agreement to have them take showers in the other unit for a couple weeks. So that's not an issue for us. But I'm sitting there calculating, like, does this really legit as an option to even consider, or am I just being cheap? Or is there another option I haven't considered that might be maybe, I don't know, halfway between them, such that I am, conscientious about the state of that wall without, dumping a dump truck full of money on it.
So what makes you think that it's going to be $4,000 to replace some drywall?
Well, because it's tile, and so we're gonna have to
Uh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I really hate when people tile over drywall. But I don't think letting it dry out is going to be a good way to go. The other concern I would probably have is were they showering with the hole in the wall?
It wasn't a hole, it just was bare drywall.
Okay.
There was tile, and then a square of drywall where the little soap dish thing should have been, and it just wasn't there, and they didn't care. So
Yeah.
the end of it.
Yeah. So I don't typically the soap dish is about 12 inches or so off the tub. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, anything from there down is not going to be solid anymore. You're right, $2,000 to $4,000 to tear that out, install some kind of tile, hardy backer board, something like that, and then an expensive tile over it if it's nothing fancy.
Or you could go even cheaper and they just do that like plastic wall stuff.
Do wall kits, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the unit. I was thinking that too. If the unit is a higher end unit, I mean that for now that might be an okay situation, but so you would remove the tile, put in new drywall, and then glue the kit to the new drywall.
Which is like a plastic
Mhm.
guard for moisture and showers, spray and everything.
Yeah, just like what I was talking about in our video today. So it's acrylic, which is
Yeah.
basically plastic, but they make them to glue over drywall, and since you're going to have the sheetrock out anyway, they do make them that nail directly to the studs, and then you just sheetrock around the plastic.
It's not a fancy area. It is a historic area, but it seems to me like the typical renter in that area is not going to care whether it's genuine tile or just, I mean, they just want to get their shower in probably. So what do you think? What do you think that saves me if I go in that direction, assuming similar cost of labor or whatnot?
Hey, Frank, have you ever used FRP?
FRP?
Yeah. I mean, that'd probably be, I don't know if that's even cheaper than like a kit or if that's a little bit stronger than a kit. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, well, the one benefit for a kit that I can think of is that like the corners where the corners join, they overlap. On the FRP, you would have to use FRP is like a plastic sheet, is what Brett's talking about. And they do make that. A lot of times you'll see them in like restaurant bathrooms, halfway up the wall, it's like this plastic. And you can glue that to drywall, which would be an option. I think if you did a real kit, you would probably save about half. The kits, we were just looking at them with someone else today. the tub kits are probably $500 to $600. And then for somebody to come in and demo that and put new drywall in and install the new kit, I would say, well, my price to do something like that would probably be close to 1,000. So 15 to 1,700 to do the kit, and then, like you said, 3,500 or so, maybe a little more to put cement board in and tile it. And then the stuff that Brett mentioned, that stuff's pretty cheap for a sheet. But then again,
Like
I don't-
$30 a sheet or something.
yeah, it's pretty cheap. And then you'd really have to like silicone the heck out of the corners and where it sits on the tub. But
Right.
you know, that could get you down the road until you decided you wanted to retile it or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rest of the bathroom is pretty nice, and I mean, the floor is tiled. I think the other walls might have some tile on them. I'm not even sure. I'd have to check out the pictures, but it sounds like I could probably cut my costs in half just by doing that kit with cheap enough labor. So that's pretty attractive. I like
Yeah.
what I'm hearing there.
Yeah, and there's a couple, like I said, the one I'm using, it's a Delta. I think if you go to Lowe's, they have different brands. There's one Delta one that I don't like, that it has like shampoo ledges and stuff, and
Yeah.
they really stick out too far, and it minimizes your space in the tub. So I just keep that in mind. The one that
Right.
I'm using has little corner shelves, so it doesn't take up any area in the center.
Makes
So
sense.
just something to be aware of there.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And that should be like, you should be able to do that pretty much in a day. Rip it out and put it all up in one day. So, I mean, you're not working multiple days either. So,
Mhm. Maybe
Yeah,
just
I think that's the solution. That's what we're gonna do. We just when we bite the bullet on this, we just do that, and it saves us a goodly amount of money, but it also makes it so we're not we're not falling deeper into a pit of a room falling apart. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You got any recommendations on where to look for those kits, where to price them?
Yeah, the ones that I've used recently, like today, I got the one at Home Depot, was a Delta, and then at Lowe's I've used they have a brand called Max, MAXX, which is pretty nice too. And like Brett was saying, you could do it in a day. The only thing I would say is you'd want to, after it's installed, you definitely silicone all the joints and then just let that dry overnight before anybody uses the shower.
Right.
Mhm.
Fantastic. By the way, while I'm taking our attention here real quick, I was talking to Basilia about this earlier, so I know, Basilia, you're familiar with what I'm about to bring up. You know, as most of us know, even if you're not in the area, you know, we got hit by 2 hurricanes recently here in Florida. And it really brought up for me, like, you know, we've got multiple millions invested in a real estate portfolio here in this state, where even if we don't get catastrophic hit by one of these, you know, multiple storms that we keep getting nowadays more and more, that the cost of that is passed on to us via the insurance market in the state, which already has been pretty ugly. But, you know, as weather gets worse, which I'm operating on the assumption that this is going to get worse, not better, in the coming decade, let's say, that, you know, things get to the point where it's no longer advantageous to be as invested in this state as we once were. And I hate to not pivot or not at least diversify ahead of a time where financially it suddenly becomes too late to pivot or diversify. So kind of my thumbnail plan would be become an out-of-state investor, and even if it's just to Georgia, like, which is not that far away from me in Northeast Florida, right? It's, a couple hours drive, and I'm across the state line at least. So the laws, the insurance companies, like, so much is dead that, and the economics are going to be different there as a result. But I'm thinking that's a serious move to make. And so I think the two things I got to work on is, number one, am I completely out of my mind for thinking this? And then number two, assuming that it's a legitimate thought or a legitimate pivot strategically as an investor, like, I got to start stacking the deck on out of state investing and maybe getting property management and the teams in place and everything, and considering locations and stuff like that. Anybody have
Well,
any thoughts to throw in into that?
assuming that you know, to quote Zuber, that you've done the work and you do the work, then you should be able to pick up everything that you are currently doing and apply it to a new location. That's the wonderful benefit of it, as if you were starting over in the new location, but you got however many years advanced education.
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched it, I might recommend Dion's video about why he invests in blue states. He kind of goes over the various benefits and drawbacks of if you are going to be picking a new spot to look at, things to consider. And I thought it was a pretty enlightening thing. And I didn't even realize that I was actually currently utilizing his tactic, but it's also one of the reasons why I've been successful in the reason why he invests in blue states is a multitude, but specifically it's the blue states, red counties. So yeah, you don't want to invest in a blue state, blue county, because then you're in San Francisco, you're in LA,
Put the
you're in,
screws to you, basically.
yeah, exactly. No, you
Yeah.
want to be blue state, so you get all of the wonderful benefits of all the support that goes to your tenants, but then red county, so that it's not too crushing and actually you're more likely to actually be able to make something of it.
Wow, yeah. I watched that video and I did not get that nuance on the county part, although I'm sure he made it clear. So that makes a lot of sense. Very, very cool. Yeah, I love that.
I think also it seems wise if you have the opportunity to diversify because you've been in the game for long enough.
Yeah.
With your family's existing portfolio and stuff, if you wanted a 1031 out of, a property or two and put the money somewhere else, I think that would be an awesome.
I think that's the plan, is like, we have cash flow so we can always invest that, but I'm thinking next year, we've got single families and it's like, the writing's on the wall that maybe that appreciation has kind of already peaked, or it's gonna peak soon enough. Especially considering assuming my base case is correct, that things are getting worse financially here, not better. So it's like, we at least get rid of one of those, 1031 it into a multifamily out of state, and then turn that into cash flow. It's like, I don't know, it sounds simple enough to me. Although obviously there's complications in out of state that I need to, work out.
Yeah, but like even in this group, I mean, Sean's in Georgia. There are a couple other people that aren't here tonight that are there, but definitely, connect and ask your questions and start practicing now, probably to, learning whatever market you're going to want to go to.
Yeah.
Before you have to.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, totally. I like the idea of Georgia because at least it's kind of close. It's like, it's a commuter flight to Atlanta. It's, 2.5 hours to Savannah and a couple other reasonable cities in southeast Georgia. So that's, to me,
You could do what Zuber did.
Oh yeah, the 2-hour drive, right?
Yeah, the 2-hour drive. He said
Yeah.
anything within this amount of commute is good for me. So yeah, if the distance is what's making you comfortable, just draw that circle, see what else is in there.
Yeah. Yeah, very nice. All right, I'll get to work.
Yeah, it
Let you
seems
guys
like
know where I end up in a year.
we'll be here.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I was going to mention, I don't know if this would help with if you were trying to mitigate the risk of hurricanes, but I kind of like the Savannah market for growth. It has been growing. I don't watch it really closely. I'm more Metro Atlanta, Northwest Metro Atlanta, but Savannah's it's got some interesting aspects to it.
Well, the historical aspect, I mean, is very attractive to
Hmm.
migration trends, I would assume. As like we've got St. Augustine here, so that's huge in terms of people wanting to live there and Airbnbs and all of that stuff. So yeah, no, I'm not worried about getting hit by a storm. I'm worried about the financial fallout of the state by
Right.
insurance costs that everyone bears.
I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that communal aspect. And I just don't see Georgia as a unit having that same downfall like Florida. Florida's just sticking out there in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Georgia is like surrounded by, two sides by land. So yeah, I don't get that as being as nasty for them.
But Jeffrey, I would have said the same thing about the Carolinas and Asheville, and now I'm like, because we were thinking about retiring down there, and now I'm like, I don't know. I have clients who have manufacturing sites in the Asheville and surrounding areas, and they're starting to get power back, but they have no water, and that is scary.
See, what I don't understand about that situation, because I hear you on that one, and I my eyes were on that too as a funny thing, but it's like what I didn't understand, what I didn't hear were the actual numbers of what was the financial fallout of that event.
Yeah.
And how many homes or residences did
Yeah.
that actually? Because what I saw was here's a river, it's exceeded its boundaries, and then everybody who likes to live on that river, they're all
Yeah.
right. But it's like how many people is that really, and how many homes is that really? Horrible thing, right? But if it's 300 homes, that's nothing. Like that's just like that's a nothing burger financially,
Yeah. But if
Not
I
like
can
Florida,
offer,
that's all.
I can offer you a not entirely fact-based perspective, but just what I've kind of pieced together is because they're inland, nobody really thought about the infrastructure. So they placed it wherever it was convenient or cheap.
Right.
And so once a water treatment plant gets hit, now like, the surrounding 30, 40 miles of square residents are impacted. And the townships, I mean, like in our area, like the private equity's been trying to buy the local water authority for the last 2 years. Thank God they haven't sold because that would just be awful. But like the townships are not super effective at managing infrastructure. They're good at like keeping the lights on, but like modernization and kind of preparing for the next. So like, I mean, I'm worried that this could be like, this could be an 8 or 9 digit repair bill. Like once the water floods and it pollutes. I mean, so I don't know.
This is an
I don't. I'm like you. I'm
infrastructure.
I'm
It's not
uninformed,
it's
but
not
I'm.
a home. It's not a home. It's not a number of homes. It's literally the infrastructure of that area is now
Yeah.
degraded or destroyed.
Yeah, imagine if like the city of like I'm in Philly, right? Imagine or Matt's in what is Matt? Matt's in like not Nashua, but like or Manchester, but like imagine if like the Manchester water treatment plant, which services probably 90% of the residents in Nashua, got flooded, damaged, and polluted. And not only did they have to flush it out, but it would force them to kind of like, rebuild, modern, and maybe probably modernize a little bit.
Right.
I have no
Chris, I'll
idea.
stop you there. It has.
Yeah. Yeah, Robert, you're a better expert in this than I am, right?
So our water source, well, part of our water source is a Merrimack, called the Merrimack River, huge river that goes up and down New Hampshire. There was a plastics facilities that had a huge PFAS spill into that river, and there was an ungodly, costly cleanup of that. So it has already happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder what the financial fallout is for the property ownership when infrastructure is hit, even badly. And then
Yeah.
even if that is a fallout for them, like how do you plan on those kind of black swan events?
Yeah.
'Cause that doesn't just happen because due to weather, that could happen for all sorts of, but like you said, it was not well built in the first place.
But so
You have to evaluate those things.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm beginning to wonder in my future cash flow models if I have to budget for two or three things. Like one, do I have to budget for a much higher insurance growth number? That's a separate thing, right? If I'm anywhere near water, do I need to budget for a potential addition of a flood thing, right? So that's kind of number one. Like the insurance factor, I'm just trying to get my arms around.
Yeah.
Two is I think you have to budget for a higher water bill. In Lancaster, PA, which is top 5 places to retire according to the newest News World Report for 5 of the last 7 years, the water bill has gone up like 60% in the last like 3 to 4 years, right? So that's kind of number two. And we have a river, got rivers, not a major flooding issue, but but definitely some dated infrastructure. And then the third thing is, and this is my biggest fear, because this is the one thing we have no power to influence, is I worry that between the migration and people moving out of certain areas and the increases in cost base and the need to modernize infrastructure, people staying at home more often, which means more water, more electrical, more sewer use. I worry that that's going to force a property tax increase in the next couple of years. It's going to be like out of spec, right? Not atypical, right? And I'm like, a 40% increase in taxes would, as an example, right, would radically impact my cash flow, right? And yeah, we can raise rents and people still want to stay in the area, but that now if it's a 5, 10, 15% increase, you're talking about like a modest disturbance of the current tenant pool. You talk about 30, 40, 50% of the next 5 years, you're talking about like, you're actually going to have to go from like a C plus, B minus, B class tenant to like a B plus, A minus tenant who just like, maybe your place is an A minus, but he wants to live in that township. So he's willing to pay the premium for like a B property. That's like a big pivot, right? So that, we'll see, right? We'll see.
Well, on the tax side, is that not mitigated by states that like have sales tax, or not sales tax, but like income tax and like other taxes that they could levy other than the property tax? Or are you talking about something else?
No, my, again, humble observation, not an expert. I think that you're talking about the economics of the township, and that's how they're determining their tax base, which has nothing to do with sales tax, which is a state number.
Okay.
So like I think they're completely independent. And I'll be honest, I don't understand it, because like I live in the Philly suburbs, one of the nicer ones near Villanova, and we have a pretty high tax base. It's not Jersey, but it's high. We have a shore house in Delaware, and like like the tax base down there is like friggin' ridiculously low. Like I'm like, you guys should charge us more. Like I don't understand it, but it's like I don't. But people are starting to retire down there more often. It's becoming more of a year-round community. Yeah, I don't understand the problem is, I think the issue is the variability of how effectively townships. I think of a township like an HOA. How effectively do they manage the current infrastructure and plan for the future? And HOAs are a good indication they suck. And I don't think townships are that much better, right? Like planning for the long term and how much they charge you from a property tax perspective. And this is my,
Right.
evolving perspective, but I'm a bit cynical on this fact.
Well, what is the cause effect relationship that you see between the township's bad planning and migration and or onerous financial issues for the property owners of that township?
Yeah, I can just speak at a macro level. I don't think they've accounted for the changes in dynamics in terms of migration in and out. Now, we're in an area where fortunately property values, they're still growing, but whether they grow low or high, that's evolving. But people at home are often they're using more infrastructure requirements. A lot of the properties, there's more development, which is increasing. The density is increasing. Like, some of these like early 1900s, like, former, like, some of the mega mansions from the 1900s that are getting knocked down. They're putting up like, 30 McMansions, or they're putting up something that's like a high density multi-unit. I don't think the same way the HOAs in Miami didn't like, well, we're just gonna like cover the minimum and we're not gonna think about like the long term. Like, yeah, we got structural issues. I just worry that that's happening in the background, right? Like, hey, we need to update the infrastructure. Like in our area, and I think they do better in our area than others. Like they realized, hey, the cast iron gas pipes are starting to fail. I mean, literally, the last house we had, I could walk out to the middle of the road and I could smell gas. And I reported it 4 times to the gas company, like, yeah, that's like within normal limits. And I'm like, dude, I could like start a bonfire here. And like, nah, that's normal. Okay, fine. And they recently replaced all the water pipes, which is good. And so I think it's just a lot of that, right?
So
And
what is the downstream effect? Like, okay, so you own a fourplex in that township, then what's the downstream effect on that owner, whether it's rents or cash flow or taxes or whatever?
yeah, it's higher. So I'm already seeing my water costs have probably and sewer have probably doubled in the last 4 years.
Okay, utility.
The electrical costs have gone down because that infrastructure is still relatively stable. It's above ground. It's on poles. It's fine. Gas costs are continuing to go up. The gas, like the gas you buy, costs have gone down, but the infrastructure last mile costs have gone up.
Is that levied via your property taxes then as well? It's like the
No,
township
property
gets
taxes
their-
is more everything else, like the roads, like the roads to grade and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Hey, Jeff, I gotta step off for 1 second. My daughter needs some help. Give me a sec.
I was thinking one of the other things that doesn't sound as serious as what you guys were just talking about, but you're in a pretty much in one market, and trying to find another market and build another team seems a little bit daunting. You know, even though we're a lot smaller, starting to like St. Louis, like I've said before, building a team there, I'm not interested in looking at any other markets, you know, at least until we pick up a few more units in this market. So that's another thing that you'll have to learn wherever you decide to go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's daunting enough to just manage what we have. So I'm like, okay, take another day a week and get to work.
Jeffrey, just curious, something I've been thinking about lately for people that have larger portfolios. Do you have loss of use in your landlord package insurance?
It is available, and because we're pushing to try to get those premiums down to move towards self-insuring, we're trying to lower or eliminate some of these things. I don't think we were allowed to eliminate or drastically reduce that one though.
Right.
I do think it's still in most of our policies.
Because I was just thinking about that. If your portfolio is concentrated in one area and it was hit by a hurricane, even if you had insurance to rebuild, it could take months and months to get rebuilt. And if you don't have loss of use coverage, then you're kind of left with the mortgage and no rent, right?
Yeah, that and a lot of insurance companies just don't cover what they claim to cover anyway. So there's that. That's why I was saying, like, this has nothing to do with the catastrophe of actually having a real problem that requires insurance. That to me, I'm just like, if that happens, all bets are off anyway. Because especially in Florida, just because there's just so many bad insurance companies in Florida, and we wouldn't.
Oh, really?
I would be at all surprised if something catastrophic happened to any of our properties, that literally in order to get a dime out of those guys, we would have to litigate, and then we'd be lucky to get something still. So
yeah, and litigation's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap, and they just changed the laws in Florida, by the way, to protect the insurance companies from having to pay our legal costs of suing them if they even are in the wrong. Like we can't recoup that. So if we really wanna do that, we have to actually increase our insurance because part of that cost is paying the lawyer if we actually can win the litigation.
Right.
So no, I don't like that at all. I would just want to self-insure. It's just going to be a long road there.
Yeah, years ago, I had an opportunity. They weren't even really calling them short-term rentals at the time, right? But I was thinking about buying a condo on the beach and renting it. And the reason I didn't do it is because I thought, like, you know, what if there's a hurricane and you know, I've got insurance, but it like takes a year for them to get it rebuilt, and I got to pay that mortgage. You know, I don't like that.
No, coastal is just so dumb, I think, at this point with
Yeah.
the weather changes. It's like I wouldn't even consider, I would not even that's why you bring up Savannah. It's like I'd be open to it, but I'd have to be like inland Savannah, not coastal
Right.
Savannah.
Right.
The only coastal market I would invest in are the coastal markets of Maine, and that's just because the Maine coast is very ragged. So even if you're on the coast, you can be like 30 feet above sea level.
Yeah, you're not gonna get flooded. It's a mountain thing, not a coastal thing.
Well, the thing is, it's like, you know, there are places in Maine where there's like 1,500-foot mountains, like right next to the ocean. So, I mean, obviously, be aware of like where the house is relative to the water. But you know, our family's house up there is what, like 80 feet above sea level and a 10-minute walk to the shoreline.
Yeah, just hopefully that foundation is solid so it's not like slipping down the mountain slope or something like that.
I see you made it, Shane. Good thing you were late because we were talking about you in the beginning.
Oh, the fact that I never show up.
No, we were Jeffrey and I were talking about the wide range of estimates we're getting for different projects. You know, he's getting electrical estimates for one of their homes, and we were getting estimates for mini splits, and you know.
Oh, yeah. So the mini splits, I was just telling one of my clients today, that whole house in Aromas, I got 6 units, 2 condensers, everything installed, roughed for 11,800. That's like ridiculously cheap. And then the plumbing discrepancy, 42,000 with our buddy.
Yeah,
versus 14,000.
That's what I was telling him. Yeah, and you know the mini split price that you got sounds very reasonable. I got a $7,000 price for one bedroom from one person, and then we got a $3,500 price from another guy. So we're just not sure.
You know, I was gonna say too, and this is the sad thing is that, you know, in all over the country you see this because obviously, you know, I work with other agents around the country, and you know, the gouging that's out there, you know, it's already bad enough how expensive labor and material is, but you know, like this house on 25th, the burn house that we've been redoing, you know, my drywall guy ended up doing the work there. I think he came in at like 38,000 for level 5. They had bids as high as 90,000. It's just like, I mean, I get if you're having a bad day at math, but I mean, almost 3x. So are you guys seeing that out there in St. Louis too, then? Sounds like.
Well, it sounds like it is similar, but one of the points Jeffrey brought up, and I was thinking about too, was the first person he got an estimate from was, you know, a big contractor with a lot of overhead, and that's going to make a difference. And the second price he got was quite low, and that was just from a regular guy, was still licensed and everything, but didn't have a bunch of employees and a bunch of trucks and that kind of thing. I think that plays a part too, along with the gouging aspect.
Well, but there's also a lot to be said, especially in these times, to make sure that they're licensed and insured. Because the amount of liability you take on as an owner, having someone unlicensed, because there's scammers out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, even if they bring you, like, if you let you get a handyman and he brings some random guy you picked up at Home Depot or something, that guy falls off a ladder at your property, you might as well give him the keys.
Mhm.
I mean, well, you guys know that better than me because you deal with your portfolios and your LLCs and your insurance and stuff. But I'm just saying, like, I'm more than ever with clients we work with, more than ever, they're like, I want to make sure everybody's licensed and insured here. Everybody, like, because there's a lot of these stories are going around, and I think that's something that when the trade off, like, I could save a couple grand versus I could lose my house. I mean, I think you have to really pay attention to that now more than ever.
Mhm.
Hey Frank, is it okay if I jump in on this?
Yeah, of course.
So I frequently deliver to a lot of HVAC companies. Plus, I've also installed a 4-zone system and a single unit system. They're really easy to do, but you know, it's a lot easier when it's your own place of residence and you live in it. But the thing with, you know, the one thing you got to take in consideration when doing this now, is this your property manager getting bids for you?
The first bid for 7,000 was through the property manager. I got another referral from our agent there, and the person that she uses for heating and air came in at 35. And that was just to the unit and installation, but it wasn't the electrical from the panel to the unit. So I'm still looking for bids on that.
Okay, that, you know, that's a really good price. If it's a smaller company, I mean, if anything, in any of you guys on this, you should always, when you get an estimate from any contractor, you know, just say, hey, can I see your license number and what's your limited liability insurance coverages? And if they can't provide that for you, move on. Because I've had to deal with that in Kansas City, where we were getting quotes and stuff that from plumbers and so forth to do some work and electrical. And you know, there's a lot of small business companies that will do it. And honestly, you're better off with going with a small business because they're going to give you a fair price.
Mhm.
Versus if you go with a big box brand, they're going to give you a premium. It's like taking your vehicle to a dealership versus going to, you know, a mechanic shop that's a small business owner. You know, the dealership, they're going to give you the premium shop rate of $200 an hour, versus a small mechanic will probably give you a shop rate of probably 100 to 110, 120, 130. You know, they'll provide the same service and they'll probably do a better job. They won't leave your oil cap sitting on the ground and say your car's done. Another thing is I would do the lumberjack landlord method, and this is something I learned from real quickly, is tell those contractors, hey, I'm getting estimates on this project. This is what I need. And I just letting you know, I'm getting quotes from these other companies. And, you know, they will start to wheel and deal and try to compete with you. I learned that firsthand with the pest control company. I started calling a bunch of them because I had roaches in my property I just purchased. And so I called out there, and I had one pest control company give me a quote. And then I had another pest control company give me a quote. And when the other company reached back to me and said, oh, hey, I'm getting a quote from this company for this price. And then another company came in, it was lower. You'd be surprised. They just started saying, oh, we can do it for this. We can do it for this. They start dropping the prices. But I would get multiple quotes, at least get 3 on it. The 3,500, that's pretty fair for a single unit. Is it a 9,000 BTU unit or is it like a 12?
I believe it was a 9. I'd have to go back and look at his the paperwork.
What equipment are they going to provide for you? Is it like a Mitsubishi? Is it a Daikin? Is it a top brand product?
I think the one from the property manager was a Daikin. I'm not sure about the second guys yet. I didn't look all the way through it.
Okay. So on the $3,500 one, I would make sure the equipment that they're using is I would say a mid-grade brand or better. To be quite honest with you, you know, the biggest asset for when it comes to ductless units is if you go with like the major brands like a Mitsubishi or a Daikin or a Trane or something like that, is that if it does fail or something goes wrong with it, it's going to be easier for you to have a service tech come out and do work on it, figure it out, and then get you parts. It's the parts issue is an issue versus like an off-brand name product. that's the one thing over and over and over and over I hear from some of the HVAC guys that I talk to in the industry. They say that the big difference is like there are a ton of knockoff Chinese made products out there that will do the same quality of output as these are the brands. It's just being able to get the parts,
Okay.
So if a blower goes out, if the condenser drops that on you and you gotta put new coils in or something like that, or a new fan housing. But it really depends on what you feel is necessary. Like if they're quoting you for a 9,000 BTU unit for like $12,000,
You're breaking up a little bit.
and you can buy one on Amazon that's a knockoff brand for $1,200. Shoot, can you hear me better?
Yeah,
Reception
it's
dead
better.
zone.
It's
Can you hear
better
me?
now. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get in a spot where it's better. So that way I can finish what I'm trying to say. Is it really depends on what your cost to purchase ratio is on it. If you can buy a product, say the equipment itself is only going to run you like $1,200, even if it's a knockoff brand, and they're going to charge you say 5 times, 6 times the amount for a major brand. So just for example, say it's $1,200 for a knockoff brand, and it's going to cost you $7,800 for a high-end name product. If you put that unit in, if you to replace that unit, $1,200. I mean, that's what 5 times of what it's going to cost you to get the major brand in too. So it's weighing the odds. It's going to provide heat and cooling for you, no matter what. It's just how long.
Yeah, those are great tips. Thank you. I'll make sure. I'm going to look at all the paperwork tomorrow before we make a decision and probably get one more price. Like you said, I have the 2. And I'm not sure. You're basically in the same kind of market we're in out there. And all of the AC condensers are in cages, right? I was wondering how they protect the condenser on a mini split.
So with the mini split, beauty of them is that you can hang them on an exterior wall up and away from versus, I mean, you can put them on pads. I don't particularly like putting them on pads down and around the ground, because the one concern you have to be about, especially in our area, is like a compressor is going to push and suck air to adjust the temperature in the room. So, if it's 1 below 0, 10 below 0, and it's sucking air to try to take the cold air out of the room and put hot air in, that air in the coils is 30 degrees less than that temperature. So the one thing you've got to really make sure is that the SEER rating on those units are adequate for your zone.
Okay.
Another thing is making sure that you're not going to get snow or anything around it that's going to go into the fan housing. And well, what can happen is your whole unit will freeze up. And you don't want that. And that's simply because if it's too low to the ground, snow kind of accumulates around it, and it doesn't have an ability to suck the air, it's going to freeze up. And then you're going to have a problem. It doesn't work, doesn't function, no heat. Because the way the ductless system operates is they will actually, the coils will freeze up because it just gets cold. And what they go through is a defrost mode. And that's something you'll have to let your tenant know, like, oh, it's not blowing hot air. Well, it's not blowing hot air because you see it flashing DF on there, or it'll show like a symbol on the remote. It'll show that it's going through a defrost mode. When it freezes up, it basically recycles all that hot fluid in your line sets back through your coils, and it dethaws or defrosts all your coils. And it'll do that through the winter. Another thing is telling your tenants with those ductless systems is not to crank them way up. If it's 0 degrees out there, you don't need to be turning your ductless unit up to max on everything. 80 degrees, max, fan. All that you're going to do is really stress that system out, and it's not going to work as effectively. You know, just letting them know like, hey, you know, try to keep it somewhere around 70 degrees. I know it's cold, but you know, you want to have consistent heat throughout the house. Another thing taking consideration, are you just putting that unit in one room to provide heating for it?
Yeah, that's the situation. So we bought a 2-1. There had been a little addition put on it over the years, and now that tenant moved out, so we were going to use the mini split for the small. It was like a patio room originally, so it'll
Mhm.
just be for that little room because there was no ductwork or anything originally run there.
Oh, perfect then.
Hmm.
I try to tell people it's that when you put a air handler in a room, it's only going to blow air into that room as effectively and efficiently as it can. If you're putting a one zone unit into a 2-bedroom unit, that it may say that it can adequately handle the square footage. You got to remember that air's got to flow to those rooms.
Hmm.
How does it do that? You know, either through venting or through a door that's open. So if you are planning to adequately heat a 2-bedroom unit, you're going to have both those doors open in order for it to do it. And those rooms won't get as effectively heated as the one main room will. And so, you know, I'm having to deal with a neighbor that I'm trying to purchase a duplex from. He did the same thing. And I'm like, well, that's great. But is there any wall mounted heating in the bedrooms at all? No. I'm like, well, that ductless system's great because it's got AC and heating, but during the winter, those 2 rooms are going to get cold.
Hmm.
You know, or that they're going to have to leave the doors open for it. And so it's, you know, it's one of those things. It's that because my 4-zone system, I have 5 bedrooms, or no, I have 3 bedrooms, and one of the bedroom I couldn't get a air handler in it just because of the dynamics of it, and so we constantly have to keep the rooms with air handlers in them to have those doors open. That way, it pushes air into the other room effectively.
Yeah.
It just so. But if you have any other questions, hit me up, man. Any of you guys have any other questions about ductless systems? I'm pretty knowledgeable in it. They're really easy to install. The one thing that per code, Frank, when it comes to the electrical on that is you got to have an outlet within 25 feet of it per code.
Okay.
That way they can plug any technical device to be able to check the system. So that's why they have to have their per code. So when you put in an AC disconnect box for that, they can install an outlet that's just right there next to it real easily if you don't have anything on the exterior portion of the wall. Oh, and I don't know if I answered your question about the cages. So you can get hanging brackets. You can get hanging brackets to put the compressor on, and I've seen where guys that are really smart about it, they've tucked them up underneath the soffit of the roof if it can adequately shelter it, and then they will mount the unit up on the wall, and so it will make a little bit of a challenge for the install guy to do it. But a lot of times, if they're a heating and cooling company, they have they're kind of like these ladder jacks that they can jack the compressors up onto those brackets and then mount them.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would probably be a good way to do it because the addition it looks like it's on the 2nd floor because there's a basement, but that would be ideal. I think I was just concerned about somebody swiping it before long.
Yeah, and you could have them mounted up to where it's something where they can't get it to just like chest height. You could have it towards a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's for a 9,000 BTU unit. Your compressor is relatively small, so it's not too hard to do. They weigh probably like 70 pounds.
Okay.
Those compressors, they're really easy to put up. Now, 48,000 BTU unit, it's a 2-person job.
Mm-hmm.
Or a ladder jack. Yeah.
Is there would someone take the compressor, steal the compressor from the wall, especially like Missouri area?
it depends in the area in terms of crime. I would look at the crime. I mean, if anything, I would try to protect your investment. It's possible. I mean, if you're looking at Google Street View and you're seeing, AC unit compressors sitting around with cages around them, I would
Yeah.
definitely think that's an issue. If it doesn't, that's something you could take at your own risk. I would say if you're installing a ductless system, I would always try to have the tech mounted up on the wall on a rack system. That way it's off the ground, because when it's on the ground, another thing to take in consideration, if you have a landscaping crew that's going around doing the landscaping and they're weed eating, they're going to be blasting a bunch of grass clippings and everything else up into your coils, which will make it work harder and it'll clog those coils up, or it'll fling bark, rocks, if you have any stuffing around that, or anything small that the trimmer line will throw stuff into your coils and damage your coils too. So I always recommend you just get it up off the ground. It's cheaper to leave it on the ground because the pads are way cheaper. It takes your technician less time, so you get less in labor. But in terms of long-term investment, I would definitely hang it. That way it's a security thing where you don't have to worry about someone stealing it. And it gets it off the ground, so they'll have adequate airflow and they won't be as susceptible to freezing up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Frank, I have a question for Troy, or for anybody for that matter with experience. Troy, you were talking about in the beginning, like asking your contractors for insurance. What exactly should you ask for if someone's coming out to work on your property to ensure that they have coverage?
I simply just said, hey, I need to make sure that that you're fully licensed and insured. Could you please email me your business license and your limited liability insurance coverage statement?
In our area,
Any contractor.
you're licensed and bonded.
Yep. Exactly.
You could check their license online too, depending what state you're on. I would always go check their license online. I mean, you can ask them for certificate insurance, but I would always check their license online. I wouldn't trust them to send me something as far as the license. I think the insurance you can believe, but I think the license is good to check it online.
What about workers' comp?
Well, I always, if there's employees, I always ask for workers' comp, even for like Frank on the subs. Like I've been getting like on this commercial job that we just got this contract on today. Like we ask all the subs for their workers' comp and stuff because that becomes a liability for the GC for sure.
So specifically, if you have someone coming and they have subs, what actually should you ask for? A copy of their license, and is there like an insurance certificate or?
In California, there's an actual license card that they could physically carry. But I mean, the thing is that could always be not valid and they just have a copy of it. I think
Right.
on the insurance, there is a card as well that the insurance provides for the limit for the liability. But then like in California, there's also a bond and there's another insurance. Frank, what's the other insurance that I'm thinking of? So there's workers' comp, there's the bond, there's liability. I think that's it actually.
Yeah, I think that's it.
But yeah, if they're not a one-man show, if they have employees, you want to make sure that their workers' comp is valid because that opens you up like what I was talking about earlier. Somebody gets hurt that they bring on job site, they don't have workers' comp, they're coming after you as the homeowner.
Right.
And
it might be different by state, but I was just wondering what everybody else was doing.
Yeah, and you would think if you are hiring a general contractor that the contractor would want to protect himself and make sure all his subs are properly insured. But I'm sure that doesn't always happen. If they're hiring a friend or something and the friend doesn't have workers' comp, for his guy or guys. I've seen that happen before too.
I'm guessing it happens a lot, and I've probably taken some chances without checking before, and I'm thinking that's something I need to start doing.
Yeah, it'll help you sleep at night. A lot of you guys jumped in tonight. Anybody else got any issues, any news? Or
Frank, I
any-
got a quick question.
Yeah,
Have you resurfaced any wood floors?
in the past, yeah, that's what I started doing with my father.
Okay. I was thinking of like before, some of them like were pretty bad. It was carpeted. I pulled the carpet up and I was actually surprised the wood floor wasn't too bad. It needs to be refinished though. And I was thinking about either tackling it myself. I sanded floors down when they were like when I laid them, they're brand new.
Mhm.
I haven't done any that were already finished before. And I was thinking about, I was just gonna rent something from like Home Depot or something like that. And but I don't know. I just didn't know if I wanted to tackle it or not. I'm trying to get out of doing so much stuff so I can have a little bit more time, but it's like I don't know. I got a couple guys coming to give me quotes, and I think their quotes are gonna probably be it's not a huge area. It's only like 550 square feet. So I think their quotes are gonna probably be around the 2,000 mark. I think is what I'm figuring. So
Yeah, I don't know what refinishing prices are now. For a while, it got super expensive. Back when we were doing it, it was like 250 a foot. But I think now you're probably more like 7, 8. Some guys are even 10 if they're using dustless systems, because those systems are super expensive. So for 500 feet, I would say, what,
I think
between 4 and 5.
2,500 Frank would be depending on where they're at. 2,500 would be a deal on
yeah, they're
500
saying
feet.
it's probably gonna be about $3.50 a square.
That's on the low end because what Frank was saying, shoot, I quit. Well, Frank, we both have been doing this now with this, the LVP. That stuff's so thin that we're laying it right over that floor.
Mhm. That's what
because
I usually do, but I was like, this floor, I was like, man, this floor actually looks pretty decent. This one we might be able to refinish
I
it.
made that mistake 2 years ago.
Well,
And we tried to make it gray. Oh yeah, we can make it even gray so it looks more modern, but it was the very narrow planks. It was
Yep.
an old floor. Frank, did you go to the house, the one in Cupertino?
I don't think so. That was probably 5/16 top nailed or something.
But anyway, yeah, I don't remember I don't remember exactly how thick it was, but that one sanded and refinished and it was in really good shape. You only had to patch a couple areas. But it's interesting because you couldn't get the dated out of it because you got that gray, but then we're so used to seeing such wide planks now that the little narrow plank, it just didn't really work.
Yeah,
But,
the 2 1/4, Brett, you probably have 2 1/4 TNG, right? It's 3/4
Yeah.
thick.
Yep.
And if it doesn't have any super bad stains in it, sometimes they can screen it and coat it where they don't actually sand down into the stain.
Okay.
They would putty. You mentioned you took up carpet, so there's tack strip nail holes and stuff around the perimeter.
Yeah.
They would need to putty those. So we used to, once that was all removed, putty everything, then screen it good and give it a new coat. I think they can even do a waterborne finish over oil, and they can give you 3 coats pretty quick. That stuff dries really fast.
Okay.
I really love the old floors. The new, I don't know, for some reason, new oak doesn't wear like old oak used to.
Yeah.
So those old floors are beautiful. And if it's only going to be, well, if they're going to actually sand it all the way down and refinish it for $350 a foot, that's a pretty decent price.
that is a
You
good
could
price.
probably get
I have
that.
a question, Frank. Wait, am I talking over somebody? Sorry.
Oh, I was just about that. I was just about to say because I just had wood floors refinished. I was about right around $4 a foot for sanding the floors completely down. They had to be sanded completely down because someone used the wood floors as like a cigarette tray. stained and then polyed, and I was all in at around $4 a square foot, and they look beautiful. So I
Yeah,
think you can get it done for 4.
yeah. So that would put you right around 2K.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
How,
I wouldn't try to sand it. Well, if you've done it before, Brett, so there's the, running the drum sander, running the edger. The edger was always my challenge, making the feathering the edges into the body, the main floor was a challenge.
I wonder how durable is the refinished floor compared to LVP.
Well, I don't ever recommend it if people have kids or dogs. If it's two adults or just adults living in the place, I would go with refinished hardwood. But dogs, nails, even sometimes women's high heels.
I was gonna say, Frank, I had an entire family room, living room ruined by a woman's heels. That little whatever that nail, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, LVP because of that specifically, like because the dents, you get dents in the floor.
Yeah. And a lot of times people will put nice area rugs, I would, Brett, if you're going to have somebody if you're getting bids, I would just double check what kind of finish they're going to put on.
Yeah, I know one guy said he just does 2 coats of poly, and then the other guy actually that he's a little bit higher. I think he's gonna be the one that's like probably like $2,000 or whatever. He actually just did my dad's, and I know my dad paid like extra $150 for like extra hardener to put in it or whatever, so that it's a stronger finish.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, a couple of the drawbacks and benefits. So oil, obviously that needs to dry really well between coats, and I wouldn't move furniture back in if possible for several days until it gets nice and hard. The waterborne finish, you can put 3 coats on in a couple of days, and that dries really fast. If your dad had extra hardener added, it was probably a waterborne finish because it's like almost like a 2-part epoxy. But if they can get three good coats of waterborne, it's really durable. And the nice thing is the water-based finishes won't yellow over time. Oil will yellow and change color. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Monica. Hope everybody's doing well.
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the offer that I submitted. I don't know if you guys remember that I told you that the house is in foreclosure and I submitted an offer and I'm still waiting. So they did a counter offer and I responded to them and they were supposed to respond to me about 3 days ago. And everything is being more verbal. First, they say, "Yeah, we're gonna accept it, but we're not able to sign the counter offer right now." Then the next following day was pretty much the same. And then today I got a message from the real estate agent saying that the seller wants more money, and the son of the seller is saying to just accept the offer. So still pending. I don't know. I got a feeling that they're just buying time to stay there as much as they can, as long as they can. And they're behind on payments like 100 and something. And yeah, so I don't know where to go from here. Obviously, I'm not gonna offer more money because then the deal doesn't make sense for me, because there's things that I need to fix. But I find it challenging.
Have you found any other deals?
No, I have not found other deals that make sense, This one makes sense when it comes to numbers because I will come in with equity, and that's why I keep bagging in that particular deal. But everything else, nobody has to accept my offers. They want more money than what I willing to offer, because other than that, I'm not going to make any cash flow. And then what's the point of me buying another property?
Then the recommendation here would be, if it doesn't make sense for you, just tell them, hey, I appreciate it. I understand that you're looking for, a better offer or whatnot, but this is as much as I'm willing to do. And, if it doesn't work, then unfortunately it doesn't work. And honestly, I don't know if you watch Dion's content much, but this is one of the things that he does talk about regularly in terms of having the ability to walk away from a deal and being okay with it. Because let's be honest, if the seller is not willing to come down on price or terms or anything, and then they're asking for more money, probably because they're desperate to get out of whatever situation they're in. So they're simply hoping that you'll be foolish enough, basically, to accept whatever terms because you think, oh, hey, I just want this property so badly, or whatever the case may be. But if you can show that, hey, this isn't the end of the world, I can find other properties, that's going to put a significant amount of pressure on them. And even if it doesn't, no big deal. It's just another property to look at.
And also, if you do let them know that it doesn't work at a different price for you, if one is wanting to accept your offer and you start to back away, they might be able to talk the other person into accepting the offer. And you were talking a few weeks ago about cash flow struggles, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I wouldn't want another property that was too skinny, another deal that's too skinny, and it's not going to benefit you in your other situation.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I said. I was clear enough to say, I'm not offering more. This is my offer. Take it or leave it. My thing, my main thing is, like, this house is going in foreclosure. So this house is not going, it's on foreclosure, but it's going into auction. So I want to tap into that, but I have never done a deal on auction, right? So I'm like, well, the owner is gonna kind of stay there. He doesn't have the money to pay for what he owns, and if the house is gonna go on auction, can I tap into that? But like I said, I have never done something like that. So if I don't buy it with the seller, then I want to buy it in auction.
So I wonder if you would have more competition if it goes to auction.
Yeah,
Have you
Probably
tried exploring other terms?
I'm sorry?
So have you tried exploring other terms or talking to, I mean, it sounds like they're losing the house no matter what. Maybe there's something you could offer them that is, only slightly related. Like, hey, do you need like an additional $5,000 to help you move out, or, a down payment on an apartment, that, something that's slightly not related, a small monetary thing that would help them kind of get them needle moving. If there's any other things that they care about.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Matt talks about as far as something. Basically, it's a concept from a book called Solution Selling, and it's basically saying, hey, if you've got some sort of pain point, for lack of a better phrase, let's see if there's something I can do to help make it easier for you and be relatively cost effective. Like if it's something where, hey, like a hoarder house. Matt, I was on the Zoom call that Matt did a little while ago. I saw Franco in there, and I was asking him, how in the world is he going to be able to be in two places at the same time? But it's he had of course obviously hopped over. But what Matt was talking about was see what types of things the seller has as what are called quote unquote pain points, and see, is it something relatively straightforward that again, maybe not necessarily cost like a whole bunch. If it's the one example that I was going at is like it's a porterhouse basically, and see if they can, if you can provide like one or two of those. I forget how big the dumpsters are, but allow them the time to be able to clean the house out, or if they need time to um, find a new place and say, they need like, 30, 60, or 90 days, see if something like a lease back option is available. They can lease the property back, or, sell you the property, but then you lease it back to them, maybe for like a discounted rent price of, I don't know, like $1,000 or $2,000, whatever the case is in your area. Just different solutions based on whatever potential concerns they may have. Now, again, you're not going to be able to, address every single thing, but see whether those may be options that could be feasible for.
I'd be careful with the lease back just because they're in foreclosure because they didn't pay.
Yeah, no. But that was only an example. But
Yeah.
no. For this, yeah. So, but those just different solutions based on the circumstances.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's always a little bit complicated because it's like I communicate with my real estate agent. My real estate agent communicates with the real estate agent, and then the other real estate agent then communicates with the owner. It's always like, oh darn it, and the real estate agent.
Has your agent given them a written offer?
Yes.
Is there an expiration date on it?
It already expired. They did a counter offer, and I did another counter offer, and that counter offer expired, and they keep going back and forth like, yeah, we're gonna accept it, and then, oh, hold on, I need to talk to blah blah blah, and the counter offer is already expired. So
I was gonna say, if they're in foreclosure, they're probably on the list of a lot of investors that are making them offers, so they might be they might be looking for the best one.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I would say do a best and final, and then if it doesn't work out, say, hey,
yeah, you tell them what makes sense for you, and you're ready when they want to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, their real estate agent said to my real estate agent that my offer was the only offer that they have right now, and they said he said today to my real estate agent that if the family doesn't accept my offer, that the real estate agent is going to drop the client.
Sounds like you have a couple things going in your favor.
I'm sorry?
It sounds like you have a couple things going in your favor. If there's someone that wants to accept your offer, that's good. And then if the agent is talking like that, that could be a plus as well.
Do you know when the foreclosure date is?
So the foreclosure date got extended.
I'm kind of breaking up a little bit, Yanni.
Me better?
Still breaking up.
A little bit better, but it's still breaking up.
Okay, is this better now?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I was saying that the foreclosure, the action was supposed to happen last week, but because I submitted an offer, it gets extended. So now I have to figure it out. When is the new auction day? Because, like I said, I don't know about auctions and stuff like that. And so I have to figure that out. I feel like they did use my offer to get an extension,
That happens. I was going to ask you, what auction site is it?
It's in Kern County.
But I'm saying that not the location. I'm saying what website or what auction company.
I forgot the name. I have it somewhere, but I don't have it with me.
You'll find a little less competition in a lot of those online auctions, but you have to really check on all the fees because they try to load you with all the fees. So you need to be really clear on what the fees are. And then these guys were talking about whether or not the seller stays in the house. So having to deal with eviction if you have a seller that wants to squat, those are all things
Oh.
to take into consideration. I don't know how experienced you are or how big your portfolio is, but if this is something that you're just starting to get into, my opinion or my recommendation would be to look for something more simple to start with, and not get involved in something at this level. I mean, like for me, I take on anything, but I'm a real estate broker, a general contractor. I was a mortgage broker out of college. I mean, this is what I've done my whole life. I'll be 50 in January. And like this is my 25th year like in real estate. And so it's like I've done short sales, I've sold bank-owned homes. I mean, I've done subject twos and I mean done all kinds of creative seller financing, all kinds of stuff. And so I have all the experience. I can tackle things like that and I can find a way. But if you don't do this every day and you don't have a ton of experience, you're kind of going down a path of a lot of potential pitfalls. And I don't know you, so I don't want to overstep. I mean, if you have a huge portfolio and you know what you're doing 100%, that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, I've had clients get involved in auctions, and a couple times it's worked out and it's been pretty good. But I'll tell you what, when you are dealing with an auction and you don't have, people involved, like, for instance, you have licensed agent on the other side that's local to the market, they're going to know kind of the market rules and some of the local laws and stuff. Because what happens is when you're buying from an auction, it's even more buyer beware. Because some of these auction companies are national, they don't know the regional rules and laws, etc. So you got to be careful because you could be buying into something that's got all kinds of issues that you're unaware of. So that's just my take. I mean, I'm not trying to scare you out of it. And if you ever want to get any advice or have any questions, you're always welcome to reach out to me. I mean, I'm in California, but I mean, I'm always happy to give you any advice on things I know. I'm not sure what state you're in. And if you ever need, it sounds like you have somebody, but if you ever need anybody in the country, like an agent or somebody you can trust, I do have a really good network around the country. So I can always get somebody you can talk to with no pressure, no cost. Like I have a really good, like everybody helps everybody. So it's like, if you ever have curiosity, you could always talk to somebody to get a second opinion.
Oh, wow. I really appreciate that. I think that that information was helpful because I
No
didn't
problem.
even think about the squatters, right? The current owners being squatters. But yeah, I don't have experience with this. I buy properties once a year, and that's just what I do. But I have never bought a property in an auction. So that's something new to me, completely new. I think I just got into this because the negotiation was it looked like it was going somewhere, now they're like coming back and forth. But yeah, I keep looking for deals and it's just been hard for
Well,
me to find a deal that makes sense. And this one makes sense because I will come in with equity.
well, I don't want to badmouth agents either, but honestly, a lot of times, like the people in this group right here, like 90% of you know more than your agents. So, like, I mean, you just got to be really cautious who you trust. Like, I don't like, look, I've been in real estate for 25 years, and you can ask Frank because we've been friends for a long time. I don't like a lot of agents. I mean, I just bought an off-market property with no realtors involved. Just bought it straight from the owners. I didn't want to deal with that. And then now that they changed this whole commission thing, I'm excited because I can market this thing, sell this thing, try to sell this thing off market. It like took a lot of pressure off, but you just got to be careful who you trust. Just because someone says they're a licensed agent, that doesn't give them automatic intelligence or knowledge or common sense or any of that. So, a lot of times it's the blind leading the blind. For me, doing this for so long, uh, if I don't have some egocentric millennial on the other side, sometimes you get these because everybody has to start somewhere. So sometimes you get someone who's inexperienced and new, and they respect, like my team's super experienced. I mean, I'm 25 years. My transaction coordinator is a broker as well. She's 30 years. My operations manager, 20 years. My assistant, 7 years. I mean, we're very seasoned. And so if we get somebody in a transaction on the other side that's newer, if they're humble and they want to learn and they're nice, we'll hold their hand and kind of take them through. But the problem is some of these agents have big egos, with social media and everything. They're big rock stars. So you got to be careful. That's another potential pitfall that you might not be thinking about. And don't get me wrong, there's some great agents out there. Even some of the colleagues in my market that I've done business with for 20 plus years. There's some super sharp, savvy people that know their stuff. But be really careful. who you're dealing with, because that's like an added dimension to potential pitfalls. And if people are motivated by money, sometimes they just want to make a commission. They're not going to dig for you, and look for all, so you always have to advocate for yourself regardless. You can't really lean on somebody else, honestly.
I got a question.
My words of wisdom for the night, I guess. Not to bash on my own kind by any means.
On those auction sites, how do the terms usually work on when you have to, is it basically once it goes there, do you cash sale or how does that work?
They allow financing. It depends on the site. They'll work with you on financing. They have their timelines and such. With them, I worry more about the fees. Just make sure you got all the fees straight up front, and they try to dump everything on the buyer's side. So that's more what I worry about with the auction sites, as well as like I was saying before, they don't do the due diligence on the property. So you really have to be extra careful on the auctions for the due diligence. Because like I said, if you have local people representing the property that know the local rules and have done some of the inspections and stuff, that's kind of a head start. But if you don't have any of that, then it's just extra work for you on the buyer's side to protect yourself.
Where's the property located?
That's in California and Bakersfield.
Bakersfield. Because this property sounds like or the situation, I should say, sounds like it's sort of ripe for sub 2. At least from what I've been hearing. It sounds like the seller needs something. They need X amount of dollars and just to dig themselves out of the hole because they haven't been able to pay. And it sounds like you could provide that if you found out what it was, or finding out their motivation. And you can sort of swoop in there, take over their existing, and pay them out, 5, 10K, whatever it is. Probably, essentially without, a down payment. That's what it sounds like to me.
And again, right? I don't have the experience on that, right? I'm a investor who buys one property a year. I've been doing it for a couple years, and all the properties that I have purchased have been pretty easy, right? Okay, I just with the real estate agent and none of these problems. Either they accept the offer or not. And this has been a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, guys. Jason, you had a question about engineered hardwood. We've installed engineered hardwood. That price doesn't sound bad. There are different types. There's glue down and there's floating. So that might make a difference depending on what your dad's having installed. And so if it's floating, typically it's a lot of times it's like a layered plywood with the top. Thank you, Cassidy. The top layer is the actual finished wood, and the rest is like made like plywood. And you can glue those down. You can do them floating as well. They also make solid engineered. I think they call it engineered because it's usually processed in a controlled environment. So it's a lot more stable, a lot less issues with buckling and that kind of things.
Does it matter if it's floating or glued down, like better or not? I've never even heard of this stuff before.
Yeah, if it's floating, like I said, a lot of guys won't refinish floating floors because they're not stable under a sander.
Okay.
Because it moves. But
you could actually refinish this stuff?
They used to back in the day, but a lot of guys won't because the sander, it would leave chatter marks because the floor is not held down solidly. If it's a glue down engineered like the plywood version, then they can typically sand it probably only once because that top layer is only about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then you would, if you refinish it too many times, you'll be sanding down into plywood. And you can get solid engineered, which is more like the old style oak and things like that. And that can be sanded a few times.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll have to find out which one it is.
The finishes are really nice on them. It's usually an acrylic finish or water-based finish. But like I said, they do it in a factory and it's all climate controlled. So the finish is nice and durable on those.
He sent me a picture of a sample of it. It looks nice.
Yeah, they do make some very nice stuff. What else you guys got? Chester, did you hook up with Matesh?
I did talk to him. I haven't heard back. I've been really busy, so I just went and talked to the PM and told him, hey, let's just go ahead and make this update. I told him 1325, so just gonna kind of go with it from there. Beyond that, I'm really just gonna start looking more into what is it? Hemlane, the different types of PM software. Of course, it's gonna mean looking into a remote team. Really, the best way I can think of it. So that's really going to be the big thing for me. No, harm or foul against them. It's just after having learned as much as I have from Dion and Matt about self-managing, and really, I think the biggest thing for me is going to be even though I know Millennial Mike doesn't have like a course out or anything like that yet, it's really just developing all of the relationships on my own. So started doing things like getting into Facebook groups for Detroit investors that are both in Detroit proper and for I didn't even know this though until I went and started searching, but there's actually a group for here in the DMV. And for those who are like, what does DMV stand for? It's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So just this, sort of small tri-state area right around the capital, mostly the city itself, and then just the Maryland and Virginia suburbs. But yeah, I didn't even know that there was a investor group specifically for people in Detroit, or I should say a group for people here in the DMV who are investing in Detroit. So I've connected with the two of them, started looking at a few other different groups. So just kind of looking around, got a names of a few contractors. I may get in touch. I see Mark is on here as well, causing mischief. The different the different agents that are in the Detroit area. So I will, of course, connect with them as well again. And then, just basically kind of expand out from there, so to speak, so that it's not simply, being 100% reliant on, Al and the turnkey company to provide deals essentially. So, it's basically the best way I can describe it is making it a little bit more customizable because I don't really it's not that I don't like the 100% turnkey sort of like quote unquote set it and forget it. I do want to have a little bit of little bit more control over the process. And I think because, I've seen so much of how Dion and Matt have been doing this successfully, albeit in their quote unquote backyards, this will be a little bit more of a challenge. But again, nothing difficult or so difficult that it can be overcome. So I know that was a lot, but it's just kind of like the thought process of here's what's going on right now, plus the things that I'm kind of looking at, maybe the next couple of months. Um, well, a couple of months, that's going to put it at the end of the year. But, let's say within the next like 6 months, so that's kind of the time frame that I'm looking at everything, especially with looking to try to find a second property.
Yeah, with the thought that Matesh had reached out to you with, I would think that if I were in your shoes, I would have at least called a couple of different local PMs to let them know what you have. Just say, I have this place. It's 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom in this neighborhood. Would you manage there? And could you give me an idea of what you might think rents could be set at? And call a couple of them, because if, like it was mentioned in the last meeting, if you're feeling that the rents might be just a little bit high, at least you'll have a better idea. And then you can start thinking about, if it is too high according to them as well, then think about some concessions, like the guy said, paying for some utilities for a few months, or half off first month's rent, things like that. But it's until you reach out and get some other people's thoughts on where the rent should be, you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah, I'd already some of the tools that I've been using, now I did admittedly realize only sort of after the fact that I had been using dated information and did not realize that during the closing process that the rent prices had dropped as much as they did. Now we're talking, $150, but that's still pretty sizable of an adjustment, so to speak. So I've already made that adjustment for the showing for the property. But what I was referring to, though, was more about being able to have just a little bit more autonomy, I think, over the property. And then I think it's just because of the mindset that I've sort of gotten hold of, so to speak, from seeing, not only Matt, not only Dion, Zuber to some extent, but, seeing this model of, multiple different landlords able to successfully manage properties without PMs, or the need, I should say, for PMs. So one of the other things, of course, that I'm thinking about is the phrase, hire slow, fire fast. And I think, what was it? Zuber said he went through like 5, is that right? 5 PMs?
Yeah, he went through 5. Well, I think before you think about taking on any of the responsibility of managing yourself, you need to work with the PM and get the unit filled, and then once you see how the process goes, then you can, cut back. You can switch to Hamlane and start doing a lot of it yourself. But
yeah, that's definitely the plan.
If you need me to,
it's not going to be like immediate.
If you need me to come there and beat you like a Baltimore Raven, I will. To get you rolling.
Well, I mean, outside of the Kansas City and the inexplicable Oakland loss, it'll be that part will be tough, but but no. So I'll yeah, that's really honestly my plan, is to give them the opportunity to get the property filled. And then if I don't see or believe that they're trying to operate in good faith, for let's call it, then yeah, I'm gonna simply say, hey, you know what? I appreciate this. You know, um, got no ill will or any bad intentions or anything like that. I just simply don't think this is gonna work out, and then just move over to Hemlane. And that was really the main reason why when I talked with Dana and asked her about that, that was about what, a month, 5 weeks ago now. That was the main reason why I was like, all right, these folks, and I get it, they've got a huge portfolio of other things that they're managing. I get that, 1000% get that. But if I understand the nuances of what they're doing, yes, it may take a little bit of time for me to be able to do that on my own for one property. But as long as I've got those systems in place, everybody talks about it repeatedly. Have those systems in place to be able to, do whatever it is that you're looking to do. So that's going to be me. I want to be able to have that sleep well at night account. Matt talks about that all the time. So that's really, where I'm kind of at with it. It's not so much of the frustration as much as I see what the model or the process looks like, and I don't want to allow the thought of the ease and convenience and the comfort of somebody else doing for me that which I can do for myself to hamstring me, because then I become reliant on them. And one of the other things, nobody's going to care as much for my property as I am. So
does Hemline have handymen and contractors of their own in Detroit?
Yes. So that's one of the things that I didn't really get a chance to ask Dana about in terms of local handymen and contractors. But at least from the gist that I got, and this is where I'm doing, when I say like extensive research on Hemlane, I mean, I am going like, a mile deep on, everything about Hemlane from every aspect. But the few things that I have been able to figure out, you can either ask Hemlane to coordinate, let's say, GCs or handymen for you, or you can say, hey, I want to use Detroit Handyman 101 as the preferred contractor. Let's say like a toilet gets clogged or something like that, or there's a leak somewhere. Send this particular handyman to 123 Main Street. So there is that customizable feature about the app that I've learned. There's still more that I've got to
I have
learn.
Hemline. I mean, I like it and I see your point, but the only hang up I see is you getting to know the right handyman to assign them to do your projects because you're not there.
I think you might want to double check that, Chester, because I thought Dana said you need to bring your own people.
Yeah, that's the question. Is some places they have their own and some places they don't. I'm not sure about Detroit. But Chester, you could jump on a call with her anytime you want. Just set it up and she'll walk you through everything they have.
Okay.
I mean, when I first said I was interested in it, I talked to her. I can't remember the other guy, but one of her other people numerous times before I joined. And they were great. They answer every question you have.
Yeah. Sounds like you have some homework for next week.
More
Yeah,
homework.
in some area they have vendors. They have list of vendors, so they can call up whenever investor need it. So that's what they do. They connect to vendors basically, and then we just need to sort them out actually which one we want to use. It's still a work for us.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was,
I have a question, you guys.
yeah, go ahead.
Couple questions. So if the existing tenant doesn't have a security deposit, so how long can, let me see. I know that we can do monthly, so that they can pay monthly to reach the deposit, the security deposit amount. How long is a good time, huh? How long is a good term? Is it like 8 months
I
or
think we only had to do that one time on my mom's property, and I think we had agreed for 1 year.
okay?
Yeah.
1
I
year.
think as long as they make each monthly payment, maybe it doesn't matter on the length, because it depends how high the deposit would be, right? How much is the deposit that you need?
Okay, because the lease usually 1 year, so we want to do probably a little bit less than 1 year. Does that make sense? Huh?
Yeah, especially if they're able to. How much is the deposit?
It's probably about $800.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they did 100 extra a month for 8 months, that makes
8
sense.
months. Okay, I'll propose that. And then another one is, how much do you guys pay for property tax for 3 bedroom, 1 bath, 1,350, about 1,350 square feet, or 1,400 square feet? Because I feel like I'm paying a lot property tax.
How much are yours?
In Texas, it's 4,500.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's Texas. I was going to say it's probably market dependent. Robert, did
Yeah.
you?
Oh yeah, New Hampshire. You want to talk about property taxes in New Hampshire? So for a duplex that has 4 beds, 1 bath each, I am paying $8,545 in property taxes a year. But it gets better. In another market I'm in, I'm paying about $6,700 in property tax a year for a building I bought that's worth $338,000. So yeah.
So for 8,100 4 bedroom, 1 bath, how much do you rent?
So the upstairs is renting for $2,750. I'm about to sign a lease, hopefully, for the downstairs apartment for $2,600, but that's low. I'm at a problem right now where it's November in Siberia and it is very hard to find a renter. So I'm doing a deal for a 18-month lease just to like get them in and not have a lease that ends in November, so that I actually have my pick of the litter instead of dead silence.
That's pretty smart.
So you're paying 8,100 property tax, but the income is about 5,300 then?
Yeah, something like that. Let's just put it this way. The mortgage I took out, so I refinanced them on a 30-year mortgage in 2021 with a 2.9% interest rate. The highest amount of my pity payment is now taxes and insurance. It's no longer principal. It's no longer interest or principal. It's the escrow payment I have to make. So that should say something.
Yeah, mine, the
But yeah,
rent
it's market dependent. Like I said, the plus side about living in New Hampshire is there's no sales tax, or there's no income tax. So Where does it all come
Mhm.
from? Property taxes.
Yeah, that's what Matt just told us earlier. Yeah. Hey, and another thing that I have question about 18-month lease. In state of Washington, they say need to get notarized for 18-month lease. My property manager doesn't want to sign for 18-month lease. Is that something pretty common actually?
I don't know myself. Going from a 12-month lease would be standard, I guess.
Yeah, 12
Eight-
months. Yeah, so yeah.
18-month is special. I'm not sure. Have you ever heard that, Shane?
I was sending a text, but I heard something about 18-month lease versus a
Yeah.
12-month lease. What was the question? Sorry.
Yeah, my property manager doesn't want to do 18-month lease. And then I check on the website that there is a requirement to get notarized, but I'm not sure if that's a big deal to do that, or
Are you just concerned about the rate changing quickly? Like, are
because
they worried about
if
the
we're
rent increasing?
renting. No, because if we're renting in the winter time and we want to switch it to shift it to be able to the lease end in the summer or in the springtime.
Well, but you know what? That's kind of like when you're refinancing and trying to pick the bank you want to stay with. You never know what's going to happen with the tenant. They might end up moving out early. Something comes up, they might even pay the penalty to get out of the lease. I think that personally, like I wouldn't push that. I would just let it naturally shift because there's no guarantee they're going to move out at the end of the lease. They could stay on month to month. Another thing you could do too is you could always offer some incentive too if they don't want to lock into an 18-month, maybe give them an incentive, if they don't leave in the 18 months, maybe then give them some kind of a small discount or something or some kind of a promotion or something. But maybe there's another way to entice to not have it vacate at that time. So are they not willing to sign the lease because it's 18 months?
No, the property manager that's the one doesn't want to offer 18 months lease.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have well, in what city is that in?
This is in Washington State.
Okay, what city is it? In more rural or is it more in the city?
It's in the eastern part.
Oh, in the
Washington.
valley. What, in Eastern Washington?
Yeah.
You know what? And you guys probably know better where to check this, but I would check the demographics, or what do you call it? I would check the stats for what, how often people move, what the occupancy, like, how quickly people turn over, because different markets have a different turnover. Like, for instance, instead of Eastern Washington, if that was downtown Seattle, I wouldn't even worry about it. You know what I mean? Or if it was somewhere like that where there's more like a larger population. I think that in Eastern Washington, you get a lot of snow in the winter and it's brutal. And so
Yeah.
I could see if they vacate in that market in December, I could see it sitting. But then you got to look at it both ways, because if you stay vacant for an extra 3 months right now because nobody wants to sign an 18-month lease, then you might as well have just signed a 12-month and then been vacant in January, February, and March. So I wouldn't. I think they're overthinking. I would just sign the lease. I mean, Frank, don't you agree? I mean, they could leave at any time. Something could change. They could also stay month to month. What would you do with your properties, Frank? You got a bunch of rentals.
I think I wouldn't. Well, we're in that situation now. We might be getting tenants in around December. So the leases are always going to end in the winter time. I think, to Dion's point, he likes it that way because people are less likely to move out in the winter.
There you go.
So I think I wouldn't risk trying to get an 18th month lease myself.
That's a good point. I wasn't even thinking about that. They're not going to
He
move out
also
at that
doesn't
time.
live in Siberia.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though? Well, and actually too, just because it not only with leasing, but also with selling, like we're lucky here in California that our climate's so mild. We don't really have the seasonality impact. I mean, we do have that part of the year people don't like to move thing, but we don't have the seasonality part of that. Other parts of the country do, and that's a whole nother factor to strategize for. But I don't think you can overthink that. I think you just got to roll with it because the thing is that you're going to anticipate. Because here's what else could happen: it takes you 2 or 3 months to get an 18-month lease signed, and then 6 months later to get a job transfer, and now you lost those 3 months, and they're breaking the lease,
But
right?
that's not.
So
But that's not what I did. What I did was I advertised a 12-month lease, an 18-month lease, and offered incentives to entice them into the 18-month lease.
right, which I was telling her, that's a great idea. And that's something that I agree with that. I think that's a great way to do it. But what I'm saying is not overthinking it up front and letting the property sit vacant. Because personally, I think that's a mistake. But everybody kind of has their comfort zone or what they want to do. And every property manager has their strategy. I'm not a professional property manager. I mean, I've obviously been very involved in that my whole life, but I know that, different companies have kind of how they like to do things. And I mean, I think that there's pros and cons to everything, really. But I like the promotion or the incentive. I'm always big on that. That's why I mentioned that. I think the incentive makes sense. But Frank made a good point because Frank's like, yeah, well, they also don't want to move out in the winter, which I wasn't even thinking about that. I mean, that's true. Like, who wants to be moving in December or January? Most people don't want to make that move.
Yeah. That's just something Dion talks about a lot, and he's opposite the other guys. They're kind of like Esther was thinking. And I had thought about that too for the property we have in Gary, Indiana, that one of the tenants was behind on her rent, and we were thinking of moving towards eviction. But then we decided we were going to decide to go month to month until we got into February or March. And then if she still hadn't caught up, then do the eviction then. But she ended up catching up and we were able to keep her.
That's great. Frank, are the eviction rules different in Indiana?
They're different all over, and the expenses are different too. I was telling some of the people in the group about Milwaukee eviction costing $1,500, and the one, well, that was the property manager in Milwaukee, was $1,500. But so we left that property manager, and the new one is $480. They have an in-house attorney. I think that's a big difference. But even if if the tenant wanted a trial or whatever, they said the cost would still be the same.
What's the time period it takes there? Like the process? Like here it takes 6 to 8 months in California.
Yeah,
what does it take there?
No, it was like 3 weeks.
Oh shoot. Nice.
Yeah, they had her out.
What a deal too. 480. I paid like I think 2,500 up front for the one I did in San Jose last year, 2 years ago.
I know, it's crazy here. Yeah, all those things are different depending on like Esther, I looked up the property taxes on the one we just closed on in St. Louis. It's a 3-1. It's only about 1,100 square feet, and the property taxes are 1,700.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is.
Texas property tax is really high.
Yeah, that's one reason, well, that I always wondered how people make it work in Texas, but there's a lot of them in the group. There's, Jen and Kenny have properties there. They do some short-term and midterm stuff. So that might make a difference. But I think it was on Mark's channel. They were talking about Texas property taxes going up every year. And I don't think that's kind of like Florida to me. I won't even bother looking in those states.
The house is cheap though.
Mm.
Good house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to say too about your properties, because I've seen pictures of some of your properties and they're very nice. I think that would hold a tenant more than anything is how nice that you keep your units. I was wondering if the financial firefighter has any input tonight because Frank doesn't have anything to edit out yet.
You waiting for the politics from him or what?
He's always messing around. He's probably pretending to cook for the rest of the firefighters in the firehouse or something.
I guess while you're waiting for him, Frank, do you guys like, I know obviously in California we have these major insurance challenges. Are you guys having insurance challenges in the states you're investing in right now?
On all of our stuff across across Indiana, St. Louis, Illinois, Milwaukee, we haven't had any insurance issues, no weird notices that our rates are going up. I'm not sure about the other folks in the group, but at our primary residence, we did. Ours doubled because of the fair plan.
Yeah. I haven't quoted the one I'm working on there in Aromas. I just found out from the county. The one I'm working on in Aromas, that because it's in an extreme fire hazard area, all the windows have to be tempered glass. So I did order those. They're not much more expensive like what they would have used to be. It ended up to about 20% more is what it cost me for all tempered glass. But of course, then you got to do the roof with a fireproof and everything. But even with all that, I'm still gonna get hit with a fair plan there. But I haven't even started getting it quoted. But I mean, that's like in California, that's the thing that I tell people to look out for more than anything now. Like we used to worry about like cash flow, crime, everything else. Now it's like, who cares about all that stuff? Like shoot somebody in my driveway, talk to me about insurance.
Yeah.
Seriously, like it's such a game changer. I've had
That's-
people with a fair plan be like 10 grand a year.
Ours, we used to pay 1,200 a year, and now it's 2,200 a year.
That's not bad. The one I just did in Aromas, a small manufactured home, they got hit with 2,800 for the fair plan plus their premium on top. So that's not bad because I mean, yeah, that's not bad. It does suck, but it's not bad. It could be much worse.
Gotta go, guys.
Okay, Esther, good to see you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. Have a great week.
All right, Esther. See you later, Esther.
Yes. For the 12 or 18-month lease, I want to ask Robert. Hey, Robert, did you give them the option to choose between the two?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I gave them the option, and because I wanted them to go towards the 18-month lease, during the walkthrough, I decided to go into sleazy salesman Matt mode and just, be like, oh, so if you choose the 18-month lease, it's what, $100 cheaper per month, plus you're locked in for 18 months. I can't raise your rent for another entire 6 months. So you're going to be saving even more money than like the $100 per month because you're guaranteed cheaper rent for 6 months. So I was like, oh, so you're getting even more savings from that. So yeah, that's, I just sold it to them.
Okay. Oh, that's great to know. All right.
You just be a sleazy salesman. Sell all aspects of it. Tell them about how the like it's $100 less, but you're now locked in for 18 months, and then it's so. Yeah, Matt has really helped me fix the weakest part of me being I could never sell shit before Matt's course. Now I'm doing great ads and learning how to sell my units. And it speaks volumes. Like, what was it? And this actually says a lot to seasonality and why I chose an 18-month lease. I had something go on market like mid-July, early August. I got like 80 inquiries in like 3 days. 2.5 weeks. Right now, I've gotten 12 for another property. And most of them came after I did the price drop on the property and the 18-month incentive. So, I know Dion, like, oh, I like my leases to end And in December in the winter when no one wants to move. Well, summer, 80 inquiries, 3 days. October heading into November, 12 inquiries, 2.5 weeks. I think I'll stick with the summer and take my chances with a tenant turn.
Yeah, and the incentives, it didn't seem like a lot. I thought you would have had more incentives, but it seemed more limited. So that's another
Oh,
bonus.
well, I also think with this group, there was a lot to the unit that was very desirable. So these were like Matt's favorite, the 3 young professionals. And I think what really sold them on the unit, what they were really wowed about, that the unit was a real differentiator versus other units, was I did Matt's college electrical upgrade, whereas you put all the bedrooms on 20 amp circuits, and then you put the outlets closest to the windows, you put them on a separate circuit as a dedicated AC line, because in New Hampshire we don't do built-in AC. You only are really using AC like early June through mid-September, if that. So nothing really has AC in it. So yeah, it's like, but like also that, and really like hitting that point, because I knew they were young, and it was a roommate situation, being like, you could all be in your bedrooms and like have all your ACs running and run all your gaming PCs. At one point, he's like, yeah, I was at the place I'm in right now, we're always tripping breakers. I'm like, yeah. And I just kept selling. It's like, yeah, you ain't going to trip any breakers here. It's just, that was probably the biggest thing. And the fact that, the unit I did you saw the place Matt's trying to sell, right?
No, I didn't see that.
All right.
He's
All right, so I can't explain it to you. For everyone who's seen it, who's like, no, never mind, because I think he only showed that in boot camp for us boot campers. I don't think he released that to the public.
okay.
More or less, I did basically a bunch of Matt's things. Like I refinished the floors. I used his paint colors. I put in his 7.25 inch speed base. I did his backsplash, yada yada, and yeah, so made it a fast move. It was that and other things. I'm doing exactly what I did. I get them all excited, and then at the end, I'm like, well, so it's first come, first serve, and then I basically told them, it's like, yeah, you're lucky you got a head start. I got someone coming in. I got 2 people coming in tomorrow. I got 1 person coming in Saturday. All this, which is true. I'm not lying. So then I'm like, so yeah, it's like you got a 1-day head start, but I basically told them the entire process, and I'm like, so yeah, whoever finishes first wins. So if you want it, you got to finish first. And lo and behold, while I just got back home. I was actually there trying to hang some doors, yeah, I looked at my email. All 3 of them put in their applications, and they applied through Zillow, so it gave me the credit check and everything. I hope they upload their pay stubs and something. So it's like, all right, let's take a look, and if everything matches what they told me, because I pre-screened them like Matt, just ask them, what do you make, what's your credit score? I don't check, but then it's like, yeah. So I got them all excited. They handed me my applications, and then if everything's good, I'll be messaging back. It's like, all right, I can send them the lease through what's that thing, Dotloop, the online signatures, and I'll be like, just send your security deposit. How do you want to send your security deposit electronically? And then it's like, oh yeah, it's like and then it's like, all right, yep, signed up. Oh, I did forget to mention, it wasn't just half rent. I offered so the rent was 2,600. Well, this was for both leases. I did it for both, but they chose a 18-month anyways. But I also, because it's winter, I dropped the security deposit to $1,800. So what, like 66% of rent, just to even more incentivize people. So there was that too as an incentive. You know, it's like it sucks I'm not getting the full security amount, but I'm happy with getting 1,800. But yeah, I mean, really all it was just, you know, following Matt's strategy. It works, you know.
Yeah, because he was saying that. He was saying do less deposit and then also maybe just pay electric until next year kind of thing.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, that's right. They also have that. No, it's gas. God, electric heat in up here in New Hampshire. That's welcome to paying $600 to $800 a month during the winter months to heat your home, especially in a 4-bedroom. Whereas gas, I'm probably taking during the summer months like maybe a $200 hit, because what I'm also going to do, and what I didn't tell them, is that, you know, and it's fair. It's like I'm keeping a thermostat locked at 70 degrees. So you know what? And if they don't like it, guess what? I remember those nice outlets that can run AC? Well, those are also nice outlets that can run space heaters too. Have fun. And the space, and it won't light outlets on fire, which everyone always does up here in New Hampshire with space heaters. It's like, let's plug in a space heater and some other heavy electrical device into one outlet and cause a fire.
And then you have the combi too, as well?
No, not in that unit. So
Okay.
depends on the unit. So here you're either a boiler or a furnace. So but that property has 2 furnaces. Those are going to be York. Suffice it to say, I can't do a one-on-one comparison because
We lost him.
Yeah, I don't hear him.
Chester, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm about to go ahead and drop off because I'm exhausted and it's almost midnight.
Hey, Jason, I saw the picture of that flooring. That looks like pretty nice stuff. I think the price looked really reasonable too.
Is that stuff like waterproof, like to put in a bathroom?
No, it looked like it was real wood. Yeah, I wouldn't, if it's real wood, I wouldn't put it in a bathroom.
Well, it's that engineered hardwood,
Yeah.
which is like
Engineered,
real wood on top, it looks like.
Yeah.
yeah. Engineered hardwood is real wood. It's not like laminate or LVP. LVP could be used in a bathroom. It holds up really well, but real wood won't last too long.
Yeah, I have LVP in my bathroom, actually, in my house.
Mm-hmm.
I actually installed it myself. It's a little crooked, but it's there.
I would humbly offer that we used a company called Floret, Floorret. They make their narrow planking LVP is pretty competitive. Their wide is not, but it's like commercial 20-year warranty, really great. Really happy with that. But
oh, nice.
Yeah, and if you apply for if you have an LLC, you can get a 12 or 15% discount. So basically, you're talking about $2.25 for a 6-inch wide plank, or a $4.25 price point for a very attractive, super resilient, like 9-inch, 6 or 9-inch plank. So
What was the name of that company again? Or how do you
Floret.
spell it?
Yep, FLOORET.com. Great company. I'm super jazzed by them. They got caught up in the COVID, expansion of development. I hope I think they will survive. But their product is freaking awesome. I put it in 4 units now, and it's been really great. It's a little bit higher. Look, if you go to Home Depot, it's not going to be competitive, but I have a high confidence in terms of I had a tenant in 1 unit who had good tenant, a large dog, like a Australian husky, Australian Shepherd, high intensity dog. She was a traveling nurse, and after a year, like you never know, the floor hadn't just been installed, right? Super commercial grade warranty, really great.
Nice.
Wow, very good. Thank you very much. I will look into
But a
that.
premium for clear, right? So
Yeah.
but if you apply for a corporate discount for them with an LLC, you get a 12 or 15% discount.
I have an S corp. That should work, right? I would think.
That'll totally work. Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey, one really quick question. More curious than anything, then I'm gonna hop off. What types of business structures does everybody have set up?
I don't have one. My S corp's for my other business. Nothing to do with real estate.
Okay.
I did the Dion way, just my own name.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I'm doing sole proprietorship. Yeah.
Hi guys,
Hi,
I'm
Anna.
still awake. I've been listening.
Hi, Anna. Uh, More curious than anything, what kind of business structure do you have for your
Oh,
properties?
no, I'm just by myself, but I am thinking about probably doing the trust set up, but you know, I'm not gonna probably do a LLC or anything like that. I'll probably try to set up a trust and then put the property in there. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
Just for
that's
the handing down purpose, not for the, I don't think it's gonna be asset protection.
okay. Yeah, I was thinking about like I guess at least doing some research into a trust. But you know, I'm gonna get the property, get a tenant in the property and then get it stabilized before trying to do too much. So I may do a little bit of homework into trusts, but nothing
Yeah.
seriously yet.
Well, I'm still learning and I have a lot to learn. And so, if anybody goes that direction, I do like to hear about it, and we can always chat about the setting up the trust and what, good, what bad, that sort of stuff. So yeah, and good luck with your renting it out, Chester. It takes
Yeah.
time. I have a vacant unit too, so just FYI.
Oh, okay. Just curious, how long has it been vacant?
It has been vacant about a month now. It became vacant on October the 1st, and doing a little bit of taking time to do the rehab. So yeah, was hoping to make it available in a few weeks, but yeah, it just doesn't happen. Always takes time. So we'll do the bathroom remodel starting next Wednesday, and so afterwards, electrician's gonna come, changing the ceiling fan and all that good stuff, and I would think hopefully before Thanksgiving. I'm hoping, but it's been listed in Zillow and it doesn't look good. I'm gonna have to, as soon as all the rehab is done, I'm gonna negotiate with the property management company to replace picture. It just doesn't look good for that. So I'm keeping an eye on it. But that's where I'm at.
Okay. Okay. Definitely makes sense. So, yeah, hopefully I will have an update for everybody, a more positive update once I get everything resolved with the property manager. But yeah, definitely am going to be doing a thorough deep dive into everything Hemlane related.
This that's your new Chicago, I mean the Detroit property, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I had 3 Alabama properties that's a long distance, the remote investment. The
Mhm.
one that's vacant is in my backyard. So I'm kind of on it, and then I'm selecting vendors, whatever, contractors and all that stuff. But the 3 that became vacant this year, they're all rented out. But some 2 of them were vacant, goodness, like, I don't know, a couple months, like 2, 3 months. And then that really um, was a slow process. And one, especially the one that was supposed to be the best property of the 3 that I have, was vacant so long, and it was really frustrating. And it turned out, I think this is the reason why though, that because it was vacant in the middle of the summer, and then they probably didn't mow it. And when I saw finally when it was rented, they took the picture of the whatever you as is, how it looked like. I got a caught that um the backyard looked like a jungle. I mean, it was so bad that um probably people were interested, but when they came over, probably they get turned off because it looked so bad. Um, they mowed it and everything. Somebody was brave enough to rent it, so I was very thankful. But so when the second one became vacant afterwards, I didn't wait for the property management company to take care of the yard. I had a local guy that I used to use when I purchased the property, so I had him go ahead and start mowing because the carve appeal is everything. So that was so I told the property management company that I'm gonna go ahead and use my guy to do the mowing, and then I just did that from week 1 when it became vacant, and it rented much faster. But I don't know if that was the reason or market was going slower. It was going slower um, toward the end of the summer in the south. So there are a lot of reasons, but learning experience, just I'm learning.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I'm also discovering is a quite a learning process. So, and definitely don't get discouraged or impatient or anything like that. So, it's it's very valuable, and it's it part of the learning process, I guess. Really, that's the best way I can think about it. But so it's better to make the mistakes early on than to have to deal with it later, especially when it could be more costly also.
Yeah, it'll rent. It's just but we get anxious when it's sitting there for so long. Um, I did worry about squatters. Um, discuss that with the property management company because here in Washington, if anything is vacant for that long, yeah, definitely somebody's going to be living in there. But the property management company said they would go there every week for all the vacant units and then make sure that everything's good. But I was just kind of, disappointed that the the grass was so long in one of my properties, and it was sitting there for so long. It could have been like a fire hazardous if you have that much grass growing all over the house. Definitely I couldn't see it, so yeah, I could have probably asked my sister to drive around there, but I wasn't planning on asking her unless it was really serious. So just a simple turnover, I'm still kind of learning what do you call it, that a little sweet spot, what to do. So yeah, keep us updated. Just what your plan is kind of interesting, I don't have that. I can't go there yet. I'm still learning the market, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely will keep everybody up to date with how everything is going for sure.
We're pulling for you.
Definitely appreciate it, and yeah, definitely I'm hoping that there will be some positive news for next week, for the accountability call next week. But yeah, right now I'm just about ready to wash my hands of these guys and just be like, yep, time to, whether it be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Hemlane per se, but since we've gotten, FaceTime with Dana, and she's, been on Zuber and Dion's channels now pretty regularly, it's kind of almost natural bias to kind of, kick the tires, so to speak, on Hemlane to see.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, guys. Well, I will, like I said, definitely keep everybody in the loop, and everybody have a great night, and hopefully see everybody tomorrow, or I guess later today for me, on Matt's Live.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate you guys hanging out so long. It's good to see you all. Thank you.
Got another marathon call going.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great night, you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
Nice.